What is going on, everyone? This is Miles with Windows Central Gaming, and welcome to the 56th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I am stoked to be joined by my good pal and host of the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, Joseph Moran. Joseph, how you doing on this fine Saturday, my dude?
Sacrilege. PlayStation, Windows, working together.
I know, dude.
Cats and dogs living in harmony.
Despite my gut instinct, I said, you know what? I got to get him on the show just so we can fight. So we can literally fight to the death on live stream. So
yeah,
I'm glad
it's
you're
not
I'm glad
about
you're
like
here.
who's better, Xbox or PlayStation. It's like what's better, Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3? And we all know the true answer.
Yeah, exactly. It's an obvious answer, and we're going to get into that. Don't you worry. We have an amazing show lined up today. As you've probably seen, there have been a lot of big topics to discuss this week. We're going to be talking about PlayStation potentially censoring video games. We're going to be talking about Activision Blizzard titles staying multi-platform in the future, the weight of exclusives for a platform holder, Dark Souls 3 versus Bloodborne. Does Xbox need an answer to the Nintendo Direct? And so much more. But before we get into all of that, for the amazing people joining live and the amazing people listening on podcast services, let everyone know here who you are, where they can find you, and most importantly, why you love gaming.
Oh, thank you so much. First and foremost, I know a lot of the Xbox community actually knows me quite well over at the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players, where each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and of course on YouTube. And it's there where we focus on PlayStation, but we appreciate all the platforms. You know, we're not here to have a 40-minute rant on how Phil Spencer smells weird, or,
that's one of the topics today, though. Sorry.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, I bet he has great hygiene. We're here to just appreciate the people that make the games. And I feel like we oftentimes get lost in that fact, or we lose sight of it, because we hold so much love for the boxes, but that love really comes from the developers that are crafting the experiences, and that's the reason why we identify with these plastic machines. And honestly, for me, Miles, why I love games. I've loved games ever since I put the SNES controller in my hands, played Super Mario World, the best Mario, period. And
Speak
it
on
just
it.
started from there. Oh, it's perfect. It literally is the best 2D side scroller. And from there, I've been a gamer first, capital G even, where, I was a kid. I grew up with Nintendo. I had a PlayStation. I thought it was neat, but my love was Nintendo. When I was a teenager, I appreciated my PlayStation. It was my Jack and Daxter, my Ratchet machine, but I actually loved Halo. Of all things. Loved it. I used to paint my little stormtroopers green. I was a fanboy, admittedly, in the 360 age until I played Uncharted 2, and I was like, whoa, ain't this something?
That's a development. Yeah. So this PlayStation guy was an X-bot at one point? Is that what you're telling me?
Real talk, my cousin, she used to work at a Sony Style, which is like the equivalent of an Apple store, and she could have gotten me games for cost, PS3 for cost. I don't want any of that. I was too busy with Gears. She actually, one day, she tricked me for Christmas. She got me a $25 credit for a GameStop card and a PS3, like a little PS3 like package, just to troll me. That's how much of a little fanboy I was. But it wasn't until I worked at GameStop and some guy was selling his PS3 for like recreational activities that I can't talk about on this show. And I broke a GameStop rule and I bought it off of him for $80. I popped in Uncharted 2, and then that's where I was just like, oh, this is magic. This game's doing something I've never experienced before. And it totally just like shattered the fanboydom that I had of like Xbox rocks and PlayStation. No, I was just like, I need to play. I've missed out on so much. And God bless GameStop's policy where I could get to take out used games, because that's what I would do constantly. And that's really where I fell in love with the PlayStation ecosystem, was actually during the PlayStation blackout. And so like I got like free games for, I got like Little Big Planet for nothing, you know, and I was just
Dang.
playing all these games. And ever since, PlayStation has been my preferred platform. But because I have the nostalgia for Nintendo and the appreciation for Xbox, I don't have that energy that you see a lot of PlayStation guys, quote unquote, have, because I just appreciate it all. And luckily enough, I have the co-host who has been, in all intents and purposes, the PlayStation fanboy, who's had it since PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, didn't have an Xbox till like a year ago, but is so kind and so considerate and so thoughtful of others that we never go into that fanboydom. So a long rant aside, I love a good video game, Miles. It doesn't matter what, if it's off sticks or, you know, how it's meant to be played.
Don't you see? That's why I'm excited to have you on, because you
Yeah.
and I have similar paths. Obviously, my love of gaming started with the Super Nintendo. The very first video game I ever played was A Link to the Past, and in hindsight, it's wild that one of the first games I ever played is one of the greatest video games ever made.
Yeah.
And I've jumped around. Was super excited about Nintendo when the PlayStation 1 hit. I was all in on PlayStation 1. Crash Bandicoot, like, it's always been about the games for me. Hey, like you
Yeah.
said, Halo, a big transformative experience for me, and that kind of, solidified why I love social gaming, was the Xbox and Halo. And so nowadays, I always, blow way more money than anyone should on all the platforms, all the online subscriptions, all the games. And I know not everyone can do that, but really, I think what's most important for so many of us, despite our preferences, are the video games. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm excited. Even though you host a PlayStation podcast and this is an Xbox show, we're on the same page when it comes to that stuff. Really doesn't matter. Like, you can have a preference and that's totally fine, but I know you and I are going to get online and we're going to play Halo. We've done it in the past. I can hit you up. You're down to clown on some Halo, and
Exactly.
that's all you need to say, baby.
Yeah, and like I think like the one thing to mention, these aren't props that I have. These are literally just here in arm's length every day. Like, it's just right next to my keyboard whenever. Exactly. Just to pop in something to play. It's awesome to have, you know, for us on the trophy room, we always try to actually, when we reach out for guests, we don't care if they're PlayStation, Xbox. We don't even care if they really necessarily game that much. We just really want to have them on because they're interesting people. And the one thing that we love to do is have Xbox creators on the show, because it's a different conversation. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of the internet, Miles, I don't know if you know this, is echo chamber nonsense. And so to me, it's nice to hear a different thought, a different opinion, and have that conversation, because I feel
Yeah.
like it's just a better one. Because at the end of the day, well, we kind of end up kind of agreeing either way. You know?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, what I love Twitter. I do love Twitter. And I fight every day to make sure everyone knows that we can get on Twitter and we can have, not easy conversations about video games without it being absolutely awful. And
Yeah,
that's really, to me, it's important because I love
same.
talking about games, and I'm willing to talk about games with anyone. Like, I don't care who I spend way too much time on Twitter talking to people, and if you're nice, if you're respectful, even if you disagree, I'll give you the time of day. And that's
Yeah,
something that I really champion on this show. And again, I've been on your show. I've been on your
yeah.
PlayStation centric show because I do love PlayStation. I do love Nintendo. I love Xbox. If you give me good games, I love you. It's that simple.
It's that simple, man. I'll play a good Halo Infinite, and this week I'm excited for Horizon. Next week I'm pumped for Elden Ring. Like, it's nice. It's
It's
nice,
nice.
man.
So we're gonna have a lot of fun today because we have really good topics, and a lot of these topics do kind of center around PlayStation fans, quote unquote, versus Xbox fans, and how certain exclusivity affects them. Before we get into all of that, though, I want to give a quick shout out to all the people tuning in live. If you are digging the show, hit the like button. If you are new to the show, we are live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, Joe, something I've been doing recently on this show with my guests is this little game I want to play with you here to kind of
Okay.
get an idea of what games are most important to you. fundamentally as a human being. So first and foremost, I want you to pick the 3 games and or franchises that are most important to you. If these are the only 3 you're playing forever, what are they?
So I'm gonna do franchises because I feel
That's
like
easier. It's easier to be fair.
it's easier, and one becomes so apparent that it has to be number one. That is the Warcraft franchise.
Oh, okay.
I love Warcraft. Now, I'm not like brushed up on the lore as much as I used to be, but man, I was fanatical. I've put in months of time into that game. If you ask me, Joseph, what is the game you've played the most in your life? It is 100% World of Warcraft. It is thousands upon thousands of hours. I'm talking. I was the number 7th rogue on the server in Wrath of the Lich King. Like that's how deep I got into it. But I dropped off right before Warlords of Draenor, and I have not gotten back since. But that franchise, even back to Warcraft 3, the Arthas storyline is just like high fantasy Star Wars, and I'm always about that life. So that's what I dig. Of course, the second one has to be Bloodborne, which we'll talk about a little later because there's going to be some slander. But that is a game that got me into From Software.
And I
And
love
now they
hearing
are
that.
now they are my developer I stand for. Like it used to be Blizzard, but now it is 110% Miyazaki. Do whatever you need. If there was a church just devoted to this man, I'd go every Sunday. And then for number 3, there is something about the Master Chief that needs to get his due. Because I could easily say like The Last of Us or God of War, but honestly, I'll be a little multi-platform here and say the Master Chief really got me through a lot socially and emotionally as well. I've been a fan since Combat Evolved. I think Halo 2 is the GOAT. Let's be real. And just that's where I hung out with my friends a lot of the times, and I identify a lot of really my early teens with Xbox Live and Halo. Like I remember for Halo 3, real talk, this is like the beginning of the school year where I'm from, and my mother, MVP, let us skip a day.
Yeah, shout out. Now that's
Shout out.
legendary mom status right there, dude.
And again, and I say this story a lot, but she also once took me out of school and she got me the 360.
Man.
Because it was a Christmas gift, but she's like, oh, I couldn't find it. It was scalpers and whatnot. She's like, but I promise you, I'll make it up to you. She made it up to me, man. She got me out of school. It's like, Joe, I've got it. I'm like,
yeah.
what? And I played Call of Duty 2 nonstop. But those would be the 3, I think.
Okay.
It definitely I gotta put respect on Halo's name.
A list of amazing franchises that are very important to myself and a ton of people. So now here's where things get a little interesting with this list, Joe. So with these 3 franchises, what I want you to do now is I want you to pick one that's gone. It's eliminated off the face of the earth, and then I want you to pick another one that still exists, but everyone in the world except for you gets to play it. What does that list look like?
Oh man. Oh man.
Yeah, this is where it gets, you start talking about the things you love the most, and then you got to start talking about a world where they don't exist anymore. What's that? What's that look like, Joe?
Honestly, the Warcraft movie was an abomination. And so if it means that movie doesn't exist, I'm going to pick Warcraft.
Okay, so Warcraft's gone. R.I.P.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of my social life maybe would have been saved as well. So I'm taking out that. And I'm going to say the only game that like nobody else knows about, but I do, has to be Bloodborne, man.
No, so inverse. Everyone else gets to play it except for you.
Oh, everybody gets it. Still be Bloodborne.
Okay. So you still want Bloodborne. You just okay.
It's a sacrifice fly, man. It's like every movie where it's like, what's it like Armageddon? Maybe they'll name a college after me,
The hero. Yeah. Yeah. Again, when I did that list, I have, From Software, Dark Souls specifically on there. And that's one that I couldn't give it up.
I couldn't. hurt my
Appreciate you
soul.
being a good sport. It's a fun little game here, and it's started as like a game we'd play in Xbox party chat with some friends, and so I decided to bring it to the show. So, before we get into our first topic of the day, I'm gonna get to some super chats here. We got Silent Cypher, who says the GOAT and Mr. Badbit together on the cast. This should be awesome. Chef's kiss quality. Harjeet Chani says, hashtag PlayStation is Monopoly, hashtag put Elden Ring in Game Pass, hashtag where's Spartacus. Ooh, Harjeet, you getting wild. You getting wild and already. Let's do this. Jonas Lefevre? Sorry if I butchered your last name. Jonas Lefevre. If Diablo 4 is on PlayStation, then we better get God of War and Spider-Man in Game Pass. Putting sharing on Microsoft only is dumb. Don't worry, we're gonna talk all about exclusives. Don't you worry. Appreciate the super chat.
A little ahead.
Yeah, appreciate all the support. But before we get into that, we got to get into a topic that broke pretty much yesterday. There was some kind of late breaking news regarding an upcoming psychological horror title called Martha is Dead. And they put Wired Productions, who's publishing that title, put out a statement saying that, due to some issues, the PlayStation 4 and 5 version would have content removed digitally, and they would have to delay the physical release of the game. They also stated that the Xbox and PC versions would be unaffected by this and launch as expected. So this has led a lot of people, and including myself, to speculate that Sony is inherently censoring this title because of the content within on their platform. So before we dive into the larger conversation here, I'm going to read exactly what this statement was, just so you all have the context for exactly what was said. So this is the message from Wired Productions. Martha is Dead is a narrative adventure recommended for adult audiences only, with play consisting of potentially discomforting scenes and themes that may distress some players. Both Wired Productions and LKA have always been open and honest about Martha is Dead content, with the sensitive depictions in play consistently communicated to the media since the game was announced in 2019. This content is also flagged clearly and repeatedly within the game itself before play begins. It is with regret that we have had to modify the experience on the PS4, 5, and PS4 versions, with some elements no longer playable. After over 4 years of passion and hard work, developer LKA now requires extra time to make these unplanned changes. Martha is Dead, as a result, will still launch digitally on both PS5 and PS4 on Thursday, February 24th, 2022, but the physical retail release will be delayed to a yet disclosed date. Although we anticipate this to be only a small number of weeks, our physical edition will still contain the bonus content of a double-sided poster, digital tarot cards, and Martha is Dead digital EP. We will update players with the date we ship this edition as soon as we have the information. The PC and Xbox versions of Martha is Dead are both unaffected by these developments and will launch with the full, unedited gameplay as planned. We look forward to players experiencing the work of LKA on Thursday, February 24th, 2022. All right, Joe. So we got to get into some stuff here, because there's some interesting notes and some interesting things that they stress about this. So they take the time to stress that the PC and Xbox versions are, quote, unedited. So initially, it's kind of unclear as to what is being changed about the PS4 and PS5 versions in the first few paragraphs. But then they explicitly say that is, in their eyes, an edited version of the game on PS4. So what are your thoughts after hearing this? Does it or does it not sound like PlayStation is fundamentally asking this developer to change the game on their platform?
Yeah, no, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. This is absolutely them telling them to get this out. Look, it's games, when they're going into different regions, there are different things they got to localize. And that means, editing some things out. Some imagery is acceptable here, would be offensive somewhere else. But that's not what this case is. I've seen some people make that argument. That's not what it is here. This is telling for me of how, in this digital marketplace that we're entering into, there still needs to be some type of better way of telling the audience what they could be looking towards, because to me, like when I look at this, I'm like, this is an overreach for sure. And when I read what happens in the game or what you need to do, I like, honestly, for me, it turned my stomach. I was like, no way. Like I I would like a, not even a warning before the game starts, but maybe like a, hey, just so you know, we know this is rated M, but it's going to get very graphic, and give the consumer that base level knowledge, but then even a deeper understanding of what happens if they choose to, so that they can make that choice. But I don't like this one bit. It really, this is the artist's vision, and even if I think it's gross, um, they have a right to make the game that they want.
It's yeah. So before I talk about my thoughts on this, I will just share a bunch of context dump for you here. So I have actually played the first 7 out of 12 chapters of this game. So
Okay.
I have played a majority of this game. I've seen a lot of people discussing, the scenes, specific scenes about this game, and all of the scenes I've seen discussed regarding this controversy, I personally experienced. I have seen them firsthand. I have played them firsthand. I
Mm.
will say right off the bat, the weird, like kind of tweet that's going around about how you rip a baby's face off. That's not true. There, you don't rip a
Okay, that's what
baby's
I
face
heard. I was like,
off.
well, boy.
You rip off your twin. I wrote it. This was in my preview for Windows Central. You do cut
Okay.
your twin sister's face off in this nightmare sequence. That's very graphic. I talked about, the title of my preview was Martha is Dead Makes You Do Disgusting Things, and there's a lot of heavy, really dark, really disgusting content within Martha is Dead. Absolutely, there's no denying that. That being said, from what I've experienced, I don't think any of that is worthy of removing of the game. It's not something
Yeah.
I would consider like adult only content, anything in that wheelhouse. Um, there again, it's M-rated game, and not only that, but there are content and trigger warnings ahead of this telling you what to expect. So
Yeah.
it was really odd to me to see this kind of break as someone who's played it. I have played this game. I know
Mhm.
exactly what this is. It was weird to me that PlayStation decided to, take this stand on this content and basically ask this developer to change it when, again, like they stated, this game from the jump was telling you that it was going to be dark. It was going to be heavy. This game started as a PlayStation exclusive. So I have
Yeah.
a really hard time, you know, believing that PlayStation was completely unaware of the content. Some other context, as we're trying to keep this a constructive, conversation here, is I've had people who've published on PlayStation and people who were involved with publishing games for PlayStation reach out to me privately. Obviously, out of respect for them, I'm not going to share what those messages were, but I've gotten some additional context as to what this whole process looks like. And
Mm.
there is the argument to be made that maybe this publisher developer did not disclose exactly what these scenes were. And once QA rolled around, PlayStation noticed something that they weren't happy with, and that's why we're seeing it, delayed this late in the game.
Right.
That being said, for me, as someone who has played this game, someone who loves horror, I get that horror is not for everyone, but a huge reason why horror is impactful and horror is important to me is that it's willing to touch on heavy things, really
Right.
dark subject matter that other genres don't typically touch on. And, ignoring that stuff doesn't make it not happen. This is set in
Yeah.
World War II era Italy. So in school, we learn about the atrocities of World War II. We learn about the genocide of an entire race, and
Yeah.
stuff like that is touched on in this briefly. So it's weird that in this fictional game, in nightmare sequences that are happening within someone's dreams, post trauma of your sister dying, that someone would come in and say we don't want people experiencing that.
I
So
mean, just think about, like, if Max Payne was created today, would they have a similar problem? With some of their nightmare sequences that they have. Yeah, like I think you make a really great point too, that not a lot of people, and including myself, have even thought about, of like, this is a horror game. You know, I'm not a big horror guy, but like, I do love a good Midsummer. I think
yeah, oh yeah,
that
now
was
now you're speaking my language,
whoa,
boy. Oh
that was nuts. But it, to me, if you, if you're walking into a genre, it's horror, it's rated M. I don't think you're gonna see rainbows and butterflies. Maybe
No,
you do. You're
no.
gonna see something, you know, weird, like a Saw or something like that is what comes to mind, or one of Eli Roth's films where it's like murder porn.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's
Those
what
are in
like
theaters. Those movies are in a theater that any person
yeah.
over 17 can go and watch that.
So yeah, this is definitely an overreach, and yeah, like there PlayStation does weird censorship usually. Like I remember there's like a controversy over Devil May Cry 5 that they censored off a portion because someone's, I think, butt is like super in your face, and PlayStation, I think midway through the game or whatever, like put a lens flare over the butt. And I'm like,
Just what?
did JJ actually like, did
Yeah,
Abrams himself hit a button by mistake? But like, they do really weird censorship, and to me, I think this is their biggest overreach yet. Um, totally not chill.
yeah, it's frustrating. Again, like for me, I horror is a very important thing to me, and
Yeah.
that's why I in particular have been very vocal about this, because this is not the first time, like you said, the PlayStation has been on the side of this censorship controversy. Doki Doki Literature Club was censored on PlayStation, one particular scene, but not on Nintendo or Xbox. So even PlayStation in
Mm,
some cases is being more restrictive than Nintendo, who you would assume would be
yeah.
the most conservative about what content is displayed. So it's really frustrating. And again, I think what would alleviate a lot of this, and I would love to see it, is if
Yeah.
storefronts had trigger warnings. So obviously
Yeah.
the game has a trigger warning, and I'm definitely not insensitive to people's triggers. I've talked to people who've personally had trauma, and for them, like experiencing that in films or games is upsetting. And I'm not insensitive to that at all. I respect that LKA with Martha is Dead has explicit warnings that say these are the things we're touching on. If you have an issue with these things, just be aware. Like, I respect that.
Yeah.
But I would love to see, as we've seen with Xbox when it comes to accessibility tags, put some content tags in there. If
Yeah.
there are, things that people might have an issue with, put it there, so we're in a situation where someone knows explicitly what they're getting themselves into before they make that purchase.
Yeah. Like just exactly, because like the way the store is kind of set up too, you don't actually get to see like why it's rated M. You actually have to tab down. So if it's like side by side and just like have an explicit warning, maybe it's like in yellow or red, so your eyes go to it naturally and go, hey, there's a scene that may trigger some, uh, and then you get to click it again to kind of have a semi-spoilerish reason as to why. Because yeah, some people have trauma. I literally when my grandpa passed, I watched Logan right in theaters, and Professor X legit looked like my grandpa. And there was moments where I was like legit crying. Like that was my trauma. I was like, oh my god, that's well over there. And so like to me, I can definitely understand, even if it's horror still, of like, hey, listen, you're gonna see some stuff that you may not, you may think you're ready for, but you're not, and here's why. Definitely in the digital age, I think we need that. But then again, you could also still make the argument, but I don't think it's that strong of like, you go into a GameStop. I've worked at GameStop. Saints Row 3 came out. And there's a scene in Saints Row where you use personal objects to fight people with
Oh, yes,
while riding
quite
a
familiar.
chariot with a sex worker on it, I guess is the best way I can try to keep it PG. A person doing their job. And I was trying to explain to a father, oh, this is what, and I'm like, I'm trying to preface this. And legit, you know what the dad said, Miles? It's not anything he's seen at home.
Just, what
I
is your home
remember
life like,
I
sir?
remember saying that. I'm like, what's your home like, man? Because I don't go through that. But like, so like, there is this kind of like, like well, who cares type of mentality towards it anyway. But nonetheless, I think this is wrong. I think it should be put back in the game. And at the same time, if you're Martha's Dead team, you kind of liking this news because you're getting a whole lot of eyes on you. Whole lot of eyes.
Yeah, I mean, there's what's the phrase? There's no such thing as bad
Yeah.
publicity. My problem is I've played this game. I know like what the experience is, what leads to those moments, and if you take away those moments, that's going to fundamentally impact the experience because it's not
Yeah.
like there's a lot of those moments. Like I said, I played the first 7 chapters. I'm not trying to spoil it for anyone, but there are not a lot of those really heavy moments. And if you even take out 1 or 2, that
It-
really is going to affect the overall
the
experience.
impact,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Like there are some things in Returnal that not in any way that pushes the limits like Martha is Dead does, but like if you took out 1 or 2 of those small moments, that impacts that game severely
Yeah.
in its storytelling. And so to me, yeah, this is again, you're messing with the vision. Every time when people talk to me about what devs should or shouldn't put in their game, I always preface with it's whatever is up to the developer what they want. And if PlayStation really didn't want this scene in, they had the choice of saying, "Ah, we don't want you on the storefront." That would be fine if it was that, right? Because that's PlayStation making that choice. But this is them saying you could come on to the storefront, and you're right, probably midway through QA, they're like, "Whoa, what and what?" And they flagged it.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so to me, it really is unfair to the devs because now not only do they have to edit out this game, it's going to add crunch to them, but also it's going to affect the sales of their physical release that should have been day and date and now is not, and that's going to confuse people, frustrate them, and maybe not even buy the game. And so it also hurts the developer that way. I again, I don't like this. They should have the right to tell the art that they want and how they want.
Yeah, and again, I've seen people say, platform holders have a right to, decide what content is on their storefront. And yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that
But they should
PlayStation.
decide it after the fact. Like they don't get to decide it after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said yes, it's on your storefront. You know it's horror. You know it's gonna have some crazy stuff. You don't get to pull this,
No, again, like
buffoonery.
I haven't seen the entire game, but I will
Mm,
say of what I have played, I don't see anything that's worthy of removing. I don't see anything
yeah,
that's would be in my eyes worthy of any sort of removal based on any sort of M-rated grounds. This is an M-rated game. Nothing that I have seen in this game is beyond an M rating in any capacity. And
no,
I think that's again, if you're communicating what the game is to your audience, to your customers, let them decide. Let them decide.
yeah,
We've all been on Steam and we've all seen games that were like, yeah, I get why that's not anywhere else. Like Steam is kind of the Wild West when it comes to scary. Some of that content's a little extreme, but
yeah.
Steam allows it to exist in its unedited glory if someone wants to buy it. And
It's on them, and they do a great job of that self curation, at least from the outside looking in. Of like, yeah, you'll get to see who actually played it and their thoughts on it, and you get to see how long they actually played it. So you get to really have a good gauge of what you're walking into. Again, I feel like as we're entering the more digital front, that that approach needs to be adopted more and more because I think, especially on the PlayStation Store, which I have a lot of problems with, it is way too basic. And though the store is incredibly fast, and I love that, it's incredibly basic in terms of how you're engaging with that product you're about to buy.
yeah, and then I've seen a lot of people mention The Last of Us 2 in comparison with this and talking about the heavy scenes in there. And there are scenes that I would argue definitely trigger trauma in folks. And there's people saying that why is PlayStation deciding that their first party content is okay, that they're allowed to push boundaries with this content while also dictating that other folks can't push boundaries in similar ways. So
Yeah,
does this set any sort of precedent for you for PlayStation? Like, I know you've played The Last of Us,
yeah,
and
it's one of the best games ever made. Yes.
it's. Do you think that it's fair, quote unquote, for PlayStation to say, yeah, The Last of Us 2 can kind of push whatever boundaries it wants, but Martha is Dead can't?
Yeah. Golf clubs aside, just because I haven't seen what Martha, is Dead does, I can't really compare the two uh, well enough. But trauma's still trauma, and Last of Us plays with incredible emotional ties, whether you like the stories, whatever. But trauma is trauma, and you're gonna go through some stuff. Now, I think they may have some warnings as well. It's been a minute since I played,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't think this sets a precedent. I think this is just a continuation of Sony's really weird censorship. It's not like we're picking and choosing. It's just it's in it's rare and it's inconsistent.
Yeah, I think at the very least it's inconsistent
Yeah,
across the PlayStation platform, and so it also kind of comes across as this again. PlayStation has the right to decide what content is on their platform. I'm not saying that you
yeah,
have to do anything, but it sets this like their whole think of the children when it comes to cross
yeah.
platform, and then it's
You're
okay on
also
Xbox and PC. So are you saying that Xbox doesn't care about the content that's on its platform? Is that because that's kind of the messaging that I feel like they're presenting is like, oh, we don't want this on because we care about people, and clearly the other platforms that allow this don't, and that's kind of the precedent that I feel they're trying to set. But again, like you
yeah.
said, it's not consistent.
It's not consistent because it's kind of also reminds me of like a Mortal Kombat. You literally rip spines out of dudes,
Yeah,
but like the Mortal Kombat on SNES compared to to the Sega Genesis back in the day, right? It's like sweat instead of blood. I don't think there's
yeah,
fatalities on Nintendo, and it's like, well, that's a watered down version. I don't want to play that version. So if again, it's inconsistent and it harkens back to the to the early 90s of there's definitely some overreach.
y'all remember BMX Triple X? Remember that old controversy? And that all the horn dog teens wanted the Xbox version because
That's right.
Xbox didn't censor out the boobies, y'all. You know what I'm
Ooh.
saying? You got the
Uh,
champagne room cheat. Ooh, ooh,
ooh.
yeah. Oh,
Ooh wee.
ooh.
Miles as a young man used that cheat way too much, it seems. It's all about the hips and hips. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I wanted to have this conversation because again, I was vocal about it online. I was careful. I'm not trying to say that PlayStation is evil or bad. It's without context, without specifics. It's hard to say. Again, I haven't finished the game. I don't know what scenes have been cut. But again, the
Sure.
fact that it's past QA on Xbox and there are no issues with the Xbox version makes me feel like to me, this feels like PlayStation overreaching and kind of being over conservative with their content distribution.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I agree 110%.
I'm going to give a quick shout out to all the amazing people joining us live. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out, feed the YouTube algorithm. If you are listening on podcast services, make sure you rate the show, follow the show, all that great stuff. Now that we've talked a little bit about Martha is Dead, we are going to move on to probably the biggest topic of this week, and a topic that has had fans on both sides of the Xbox and PlayStation camp very divided. And easily the biggest news story of this entire year so far has been the announcement that Xbox is acquiring Activision Blizzard King. And since this news broke, there have been wild, passionate takes on either side about the future of exclusivity for franchises like Call of Duty. Before we talk about the latest developments here, when this news first broke, what was your reaction? What was your stance on all of this?
Um, Overwhelmingly positive. This is I feel like clarity on the tweet that everybody was dissecting from Phil a few weeks ago of we have the desire to like keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, and people are picking and choosing what Call of Duty and desire meant. And now we know Call of Duty means the franchise, our means PlayStation and Xbox. And so my first thoughts was cool. They're not ripping people away from their communities just because of their preference. That if there is a precedent that these games were on systems before, they're going to probably keep them on, and any future game will be exclusive because there is no precedent of any of that. So they get to really, hone in on the fact that all these games you could get for $15 a month. Awesome. It feels like everybody wins.
Yeah, so Brad Smith, who's the president of Microsoft, basically shared some information about, what this is going to look like post-acquisition, Microsoft's plans for basically a store that'll be universal across different devices, and then we got some context and some specifics on Activision Blizzard. So I'll read the kind of key quotes from this. Microsoft will continue to make Call of Duty and other popular Activision Blizzard titles available on PlayStation through the term of any existing agreement with Activision. And we have committed to Sony that we will also make them available on PlayStation beyond the existing agreement and into the future so that Sony fans can continue to enjoy the games they love. There was also similar messaging that suggested they would like to bring franchises like Call of Duty to Nintendo as well. So before this news broke, were you in the camp of people who thought there was a possibility that Call of Duty could be an Xbox exclusive? Or where did you sit?
I thought it would really go either way. That like, I was kind of readying myself like it was the Bethesda thing all over again of like, well, there's a possibility. And at the same exact time when Phil said, well, we have a desire to keep Call of Duty, I'm like, okay, so it's just Call of Duty. And I understand that because to me, we talked about this on the trophy room. I've said about it plenty of times is there's a difference of wanting to be somewhere and having to be somewhere. And a lot of people equated this to, and I hope I'm not, going a little ahead of you here, but a lot of people were equating this to like the marketing deal that PlayStation has with Call of Duty.
Exactly.
And I'm like, that's not a one-to-one comparison. What you're doing is you're telling people, and this is not like, this is false. Call of Duty is on the decline at the moment. So you're going to anger the biggest portion of the community to say, hey, you're either here or you're not. And so people are going to make that decision. And so the bean counters at Microsoft did the analyzing, and they said, okay, so for the betterment of this franchise, the best thing that we can do for it is have it on PlayStation and incentivizing people through Game Pass to come on over to the Xbox side. Because I feel like what Xbox and Phil Spencer wants is that they want you to be on Game Pass. They don't want you to have to be on Game Pass. It is that choice that makes it more appealing than forcing people to be on it.
Yes, they ran into that trouble in a humongous way with Kinect. The Kinect, when it was an optional choice within Xbox, it broke the Guinness Book of World Records when it comes to sales of a console accessory. It was humongous. And then when it was a forced add-on with the launch of the Xbox One, people were like, no, I don't want this. I don't want to pay more money for this. You're making me buy this. And as Microsoft learned in a very powerful, long-lasting way, if you force someone to do anything, they will resent you. They will push back, and they will not let that go. People to this day bring up the fact that Xbox One and Kinect were bundled together as a reason to not like Microsoft and not like Xbox.
They're all about good faith right now, man. And they don't want to mess with that good faith.
Yeah. And a lot of this comes down to the fact that this is the biggest acquisition for Microsoft ever. This is the biggest acquisition for gaming ever across anyone. And Microsoft is undoubtedly trying to do everything they can to make sure that this deal goes through. And if you're communicating that, this isn't about gatekeeping content. Look at what we did with Minecraft. Minecraft, you can still play on other devices, blah, blah. A lot of this is messaging to say that like, hey, we're not nefarious. This isn't about locking away content. This is about expanding this content and keeping it available where it was. And kumbaya, we're going to play nice with everybody, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of that fundamentally comes from the fact that they are concerned that there will be people trying to stop this deal from happening.
Yes. And that is a possibility. I hated the defense of like, well, they wouldn't put this deal together if they knew they can lose it. It's like, no. There's still risk here. Like NVIDIA literally just lost the ARM deal, which caused, I think, the ARM CEO to literally resign. Like, it happens. Like, one thing that I feel like people never learn is like lawyers lie. Like, this is like, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're fighting through this right now. When people are like, well, Sony's going to keep their stuff exclusive, Microsoft, right? That logic is But Sony isn't Microsoft. Microsoft is literally one of, if not the richest companies in the world. They are a mega giant. They are in everything that you do. And right now, there is a conversation, not on just the government of the United States, but on the world stage of, so we're reaching this endpoint with capitalism when it comes to, we have like now 5 mega companies, and they have, some of them, more power than us. And we need to limit that reach. So there is incredible scrutiny. If you're Apple, if you're Google, if you're Microsoft,
Mhm.
incredible scrutiny. And what Microsoft is trying to do here is saying, no, 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 no. Don't worry about what we're doing. Nothing is changing with what we're doing. We're just putting this on a platform. We're actually expanding it to multiple platforms. So you don't have to worry about us, but who you do need to worry about is that Google and that Apple.
Yeah,
They're
they're
the in that
bad.
Amazon. You can't trust Jeff Bezos and his beady eyes. You gotta look at them. Don't worry. We actually agree with you, federal government, on a lot of what you're saying, and that's why we're playing nice, and
Yeah.
that's what they want. So if you want this deal to pass, you kind of ducking, dodging, and weaving. You know?
Yeah, because again, there are arguments to be made that this certainly is not a monopoly. I don't think monopoly would be the reason that this deal wouldn't go through. There are people, bringing up antitrust conversations, and
Yeah.
I obviously that sort of stuff is going to be reviewed thoroughly. There's a reason
Yeah.
this deal is going to take upwards of a year and a half to close. Is there's a lot of stuff they need to sift through. And again, like if you're Microsoft, you are worried. Even if you are confident, there's still this remote possibility that this deal doesn't go through. And if that deal doesn't go through, you lose billions of dollars. You have to
Yeah.
pay Activision, Blizzard, and King billions and billions of dollars for nothing. So if
Yeah.
and as rich as Microsoft is, billions and billions of dollars for no return that's a big hit,
It's a
and
loss.
it's a loss.
Yeah, man.
So it's really interesting to get this context, and it's led to a lot of people, being upset. I would say in the Xbox camp, because previously I was like you, I was kind of on the fence. I could really see it going either way. I could see a world where they leverage Call of Duty specifically as this Minecraft platform. It's huge.
Yeah.
We want to keep making money on it. We see the potential of leaving it everywhere it is. And then I also thought, well, maybe they'll do that with multiplayer, and then they will leverage like Call of Duty campaigns and the zombies. Like maybe that'll be exclusive content that they'll try to leverage Game Pass, or maybe they'll say like, okay, you can have Call of Duty if you put the Xbox app on PlayStation. So there was all these different possibilities that I was kind of throwing around,
Which I
and
definitely think is going to happen, by
and
the
I
way.
definitely think like the way they were talking about this universal app that can go on any device, I kind of think that that's a way that Microsoft can leverage revenue across other platforms and say, okay, we're going to still allow you to sell this on PlayStation and Nintendo, but we're going to have a system in place that dictates kind of our cut of that.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing. Now, Microsoft has incredible negotiating power of PlayStation when it comes to what could be on that platform. Now, I don't know about the Universal app. I'm not like a big tech guy. Metaverse is still a buzzword to me. Um, by the way, I work with folks that think the metaverse is the future and NFTs are the future. Their opinions are mine. My opinions aren't theirs. I think NFTs are a freaking scam. I stopped mid word. So, like, to me, when I hear about this universal app, Miles, like, God, when I think about this universal app, I'm like, are they selling the government on a pipe dream? Because like, how do you sell that to an Apple? How do you sell that to a PlayStation? These closed ecosystems.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
like, yeah, you're selling people on a utopia vision that I don't necessarily think is the future. And I think when we're talking about metaverse, I'm definitely thinking metaverse is more transmedia than me living in a Microsoft literal world. um, but yeah, like this still has immense power if you're an Xbox person. I don't understand that. I don't understand that logic that a lot of people are like, well, in order for Microsoft to win, PlayStation has to lose, or in order for PlayStation to win, Xbox must lose. I really hate that logic, and I despise it because, I saw one person where it's just like they need to bury PlayStation. I'm like, so what you're literally telling me is that you want this company to go under and you want thousands of people to lose their jobs. It's what you want
over the console wars. And I've seen people
over
say
the
like,
console wars.
well, PlayStation was being mean to Xbox and was trying to put Xbox out of business in the early Xbox
Yeah,
One generation or whatever. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, obviously I've seen a lot of passionate takes and people who have their thoughts of how this should go. I guess I'll just kind of pose this question to you as someone who, is a PlayStation fan, primarily plays
yeah.
on PlayStation. Um, how does this sit with you in terms of the idea that you can still play Call of Duty on Xbox? Would
Yeah.
you have just, again, let's just say you are excited about Xbox or
Sure,
are excited about Call of Duty specifically.
sure. Yeah.
That's to be debated for a lot of people. But would you have just played it exclusively on Xbox, or would you have been, disappointed or upset that you couldn't play it on PlayStation?
Honestly, what I do with a lot of Game Pass games is I play them for a minute or two, and then I kind of drop them. Probably what I would have done here with Call of Duty. Probably would have played that story because I really do like Modern Warfare, and then probably would have dropped it. But it now being on PlayStation, who knows? Because I was losing the luster of Call of Duty.
Yeah,
So
that's where I'm
now,
at.
so like to me, I'm like, it's not a big loss because they already kind of lost me a while ago. So to me, I'm just thinking of the other person that has no idea that this deal exists. That is the average gamer that's going to buy the Madden and Call of Duty, and then suddenly see it ripped from them. Um, isn't great. Isn't a great feeling for them because they don't want any part of this console war nonsense. But as a PlayStation fan, now knowing that quite possibly I'll be able to play Diablo 4 on my PlayStation, cool. I'm gonna still play it on PC because that's where it's meant to be played.
Cool.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's how I'm feeling, man. I'm very laissez-faire with this. I'm like, this is great if you're a PlayStation gamer and you play those games. And if you're an Xbox person, you don't have to spend $60-$70 on these games. You can literally spend $15. So why does it matter if someone else could play that's not on your ecosystem? You're literally getting the better deal.
Yeah, that is another interesting point as well, as you have the Game Pass wrinkle in this conversation. So no matter what, if you're playing on Xbox, you still get to play any Call of Duty, any Activision Blizzard game through Game Pass. And so that has humongous value to someone who's on the Xbox ecosystem, subscribe to Xbox Game Pass. I've seen
Yeah.
people say that that's not enough. It's not enough that they get to play that on Xbox Game Pass. It is that they
Yes.
want to see that content taken from someone else. And there
Which is
are
so short-sighted on so many levels, Miles, because I can guarantee you that like people forget so easily what happened in the 90s. Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy, and Microsoft swooped in because people were looking at Microsoft going, "You're the devil, you're this monopoly," and literally saved Apple. Literally said, "Build us an internet communication device, and I don't know, here's Word," and like they literally saved Apple from the brink of death. They gave them an olive branch. It's not about destruction. If you think someone has to lose or someone has to go away forever or become the Sega, well, that's sad because look at where Sega is now, Miles. It's not very good. Sonic sucks, guys.
you're upsetting fan. I mean, I
I know.
agree, Sonic's bad, but let's
Like, I honest to God, Miles, thank you that we agree. We have great taste. It really comes down to, I bet when Jim Ryan got that call or had that meeting with Phil Spencer, they were more like, "Would you like to form an alliance?" Because I think Microsoft and Sony see each other as the competitors they want, right?
not
They
the
see each,
competitors they fear.
which is Apple and Amazon. And we've heard rumblings that Apple is trying to snipe at Microsoft engineers to build them a console of their own. And we know that Amazon has an interest in games. They just don't know if they want to. They're dipping their toes in right now. Lost Ark is incredibly popular, so was a New World, but they're dipping their toes now. They want to put a whole ankle in to just feel the waters a little bit more. Like they have the infrastructure to do that, And so if you're looking at the landscape, if you're Microsoft, do I want another $1 trillion company to be my nemesis in this space? Or do I want it to be this smaller $1 billion company that I'm in this space with? And the choice becomes so much clearer.
Yeah, we've had Phil Spencer come out and say that he trusts PlayStation, he trusts Nintendo to do the right thing for the industry. And I think that's a really interesting point is these legacy companies have been in the, the industry for a long time. And yeah, you can make obviously they're there to make money. Like there's
Yeah.
no denying that. Like as much as we say, "Oh yeah, they want to make good games, they want to treat us well. They want to make money." At the end of the day, that is kind of their primary objective. That being said, I think you can safely look at PlayStation. You can safely look at Nintendo and Xbox and say they also love gaming. Like the people
Yeah.
that are in the positions of power at these companies love gaming. And then on the opposite end, when you start talking about the fears and the concerns, I brought this up last week when you have countries like Saudi Arabia investing in Capcom. And you say, I don't think that Saudi Arabia necessarily loves gaming. I mean,
Nope.
I'm not saying that there aren't people there that do, but I think that's 100% about a nefarious means to make money because they see that the gaming industry is growing and there's huge potential. So there's going to be a lot of people looking at this as a way to make easy money. And they're going to start dumping a bunch of money in to invest in these companies. And then they're going to start dictating like, yo, we gave you all this money and we're not getting our money back. And that's going to fundamentally impact how these games are made, what they're allowed to do, the types of games that are made. And I think Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan understand that.
And listen, this could be a very much an American fear, but like, you could take a look at a Tencent and go, whoa, that is way too much power to a company that answers directly to and has a seat at the table of this government that we disagree with, ideology wise. And so like, you're definitely right there to think that, again, it's not a zero sum game, and to see all these other kind of shadow investors investing in these game studios, it is really concerning of like what's going to happen to my art. Like, look, similar to like the Martha is dead thing, is that going to be amplified depending on what person or government or whatever have you invests in a certain company, what that art gets to say? I don't know, man. It's creepy. And I don't like it one bit.
Exactly. And that's kind of gaming has become the most successful medium, more profitable than music and movies. And with that is going to sorry. With that is going to bring
Miles.
a lot of, nefarious investors.
Yes.
Again, not to put people down inherently for trying to make money. I get it. You want to make money,
Capitalism.
whatever. That's on you. You do you, boo.
Business.
But that being said, I don't trust a lot of these people that are in it explicitly for the money. And I think that's why we're seeing this kind of more kumbaya approach with Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo as they look to the future and understand that, maybe traditional console hardware, maybe traditional exclusives, that's not the way that the average person wants to engage with gaming. And so we are going to need to start branching outside of that. And
by the way, I am fighting a sneeze right now. And as I ask you this question, do you think there is a bargaining chip at play if you're Microsoft for PlayStation? Oh, look at me fight this. It's real bad.
It's all
like, do you think they're trying to get Game Pass on PlayStation? Do you think that's their play?
I think they are absolutely trying. 100%. I don't think there's any world where Phil Spencer has not talked to PlayStation and Nintendo about getting Game Pass on there. I don't think there's any world where those conversations haven't happened. I think it's going to be whittling PlayStation and Nintendo down and showing them that this wouldn't hurt their business, but this would be a supplemental way. And as maybe PlayStation, we've heard of the Spartacus app and means like that. Maybe PlayStation and Xbox are talking to each other about, hey, we'll share our apps. Like if you want Game Pass on here, put Spartacus on your system, and maybe we start seeing that. So instead of like with streaming services like Netflix, HBO, like you can watch those on anything. You don't have to have an HBO box or a Hulu box. It's just this app that allows you to access this content. And I wonder if those are some of the longer term conversations that are happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. First off, I want to say crisis averted on my end. You saw that? I fought like
that face.
How many times have you said I fought off a sneeze and I won? I definitely think that this, like, I mean, we've heard rumors for years, and you can even see it with the way that they talk about Nintendo and put those dang Switches on their shelves. They've been whining and dining Nintendo for a minute now. Not for an acquisition, but for like, hey, can we put this on
Please,
your
everyone
console,
wants it.
please?
Dude, Game Pass on the Switch. Come on. That's
I
a
would be
dream. That's a dream.
stellar. Yeah,
Oh,
awesome. Like that's the one streaming game thing that they can do that people would actually like, you know? Um, I definitely think there's conversations of like, again, it won't happen in the near future, but like Microsoft probably has gone up to PlayStation and was just like, hey, listen, you don't have Western RPGs anymore. That's a shame. You could, though, have them if we put this little app on your little box right here.
hmm.
And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be one to one. They can literally just be like, it's the, xCloud or Game Pass streaming on PlayStation, right? It could be Xbox, game streaming on Nintendo. And if you want the best experience, you could go buy the monolith that is the Series X. But this is it's fine and it'll do versions on PlayStation and Nintendo. I definitely think that was definitely a play from, to have some type of bargaining chips, whether it's the near future or far future for PlayStation.
Because I've had a lot of people ask when I've talked about the possibility of these apps like Game Pass going to Nintendo or PlayStation, saying, how would it benefit them? What would they get out of it? And the way that they could leverage it, especially Nintendo, is you tie that to their online subscription. You say,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you can play Xbox Game Pass with a Nintendo Switch online subscription. And then you tell Nintendo, hey, you put this on here, we'll give you a cut of the subscription revenue through your service. Bam. They're automatically getting a boost in subscribers and they are getting a cut of that revenue.
Yeah.
You could also do curated Game Pass portfolios. So on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, maybe it is only the exclusives. Maybe PlayStation, Nintendo say, I don't want the third-party content because I feel like that's going to cut into our sales. And Xbox could say, okay, well, we have a stacked library of exclusive content. What if we just do that? What if we curate that for you so that, people who only have a Switch, they can still access our content. And, as we get more exclusives, they're not going to say, maybe I should just go buy an Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely an approach. There's also the reason of like, Google's definitely paying Apple to have Google search in Safari on iOS, right? There's definitely incentives that you don't necessarily have to, dangle a carrot necessarily of like, well, you still get a cut here, or if we just cut around here, we can have this. I definitely think it's more of a way of not saying a flat fee, but saying, okay, so if Xbox Game Pass is on my box, we have to get X amount of cut of it when it's downloaded on our system. We definitely want a cut of that. I think that's probably the bigger sell to these things. And I definitely think when it comes to like Spartacus, again, I've been preaching this from the get, and I know I sound crazy, but last few weeks, crazy things have happened, is that we're eventually going to get to this future where you're seeing a PlayStation icon on an Xbox. Like you're going to see, whatever Spartacus is somewhere in the future on an Xbox thing. You're going to see an Xbox thing on a PlayStation thing. And I really hope that's the case because we get to destroy these weird fanboys on the internet that fight over these boxes. So a part of it's a little selfish, but I definitely see in the future the box are going to be supplementary to the service, not, the service being supplementary to the console.
I talk about this a lot on this show, and it's not the most popular opinion for a lot of people, but I'm a dirty console heathen. I have a gaming PC, but I prefer to play console. I have also said that console gaming, when we look at the grand scheme of the entire industry, is fairly niche, and there is no long-term future where games are tied exclusively to a box for anyone. And I think PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox are coming to terms with that. Nintendo, as always, will probably be the last bastion there. But I think that as these companies release stuff on PC, as they release it on cloud and see the engagement, see the amount of revenue, that we are going to move away from proprietary boxes with proprietary games. I know that's radical, but
Crazy thinking, Miles. How dare you say that? When we seen the top console that is sold is a PS2 at 150 million units, home console. Uh, they all found their ceiling. They're like it's around 100 million. So as games get more expensive and more demanding, and talent grows, especially in this field where right now at the moment there's a creative shortage, people are paying top dollar for developers, um you need to put this thing in more places, and it doesn't hurt the brand whatsoever to do so. I mean, like, look at God of War, great example of Sony finally realizing you could put your games in
Yeah.
other places. Sold 2 million
And people
in its
bought it.
first month.
You put a great game somewhere else
What a
and people buy
concept.
it. What? That's
Yeah.
wild.
So we're going to see that future take place sooner rather than later. And I think the global condition that we find ourselves in has accelerated a lot of that thinking, especially on the PlayStation side, has accelerated that thinking uh, a lot. So, yeah, this is great news. Again, it doesn't take away from your enjoyment. If you enjoy Call of Duty on Xbox, you now get to do it at a better value. You now get to enjoy, Diablo 4 at a better value. You get the whole Blizzard suite for $15. And now Joe Blow over here, me, I have to go spend 60, 70. Just because I can't look at achievements, I have to look at trophies. And I hate that about myself, Miles. I hate when every time I'm about to buy a game, I'm like, but what's that trophy list look like?
What's that trophy list look like? No. Can I get
I
that
know.
plat? Can I get the
Can I?
plat, dude?
It's the only thing that matters to me. And it's sad that it's come down to that.
Yeah, but we get we get loyal to it. I'm the same way. Like I have a PlayStation, I have a Switch, I have an Xbox, but I want to play it on the Xbox. Like even if it's even if I could easily just play it on PlayStation. Like
Yeah.
like certain like Legend of Mana is the game I always talk about. I always complain about on Twitter. Like why isn't this on Xbox? Blah blah blah. It's on everywhere else. Blah blah blah. But I bought it on PlayStation. I bought it on PC. And I've played it there and I enjoyed it there. But the second it came to Xbox, I would run through it again. I would 100% that game, like you mentioned, for those chivis, bro. Just for the chibi, and just to like look at the stats and be like, yeah, I played this number of hours on Xbox. I'm number one on my friends list on Xbox.
Honestly, there's a freedom on Xbox because you guys don't have platinums. That like with Red Dead Redemption, I think I was like 83% with that game. I didn't 100%, I 83%ed it or something. And I was like, okay, I could walk away from this. I played it enough. That shows how much I love this game.
Yeah.
But if it's on PlayStation, I'm like, I'm only 3 trophies away. I'm only 3 trophies away.
I'm on.
To complete this.
It's an addiction, Joe.
It is.
It's.
Oh, I'm scared.
That's
Scared
we
what
we
it's done
talked
for me.
Randall Thor, love him, but that
Yeah.
man was deep. That man was playing games just for achievements. He wasn't
Yeah.
even doing it for the joy of the game. He was doing it to watch that number get bigger.
Which I've tried to do, and it's actually ruined games for me. I'm like, I'm just playing it for the plat. Oh my god, how many hours? 7. And again, it's that difference feeling of I want to play this game versus I have to play this game for the platinum, because 7 hours is a short experience to some if you want to be there. If you don't want to be there, it's 7 hours of boredom. Looking at you, Emily is away.
Well, I'm going to give a quick shout out to the 185 people rocking with us. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. I'm going to get some super chats, and then we're going to dive into the weight of exclusives. We've been talking about Call of Duty, but we're going to have a broader conversation about, exclusives. You on the PlayStation side, me on the Xbox side, and then just the overall kind of appeal of exclusives and really the value of exclusives. Because I have some specific questions I want to ask you, and I want to ask the community about how much stock we should really put into them. But first, let me scroll up. Let me get caught up on all the amazing super chats from this lovely crowd here. All right. Here we go.
I'm ready.
Jonas Lefevre again. Lefevre had 2 Spider-Man games on my 360. PlayStation forces you to their box if you want more. Why is that fair? Okay, well, again, that is going to be our next conversation.
Sure.
the fairness and value, quote unquote, of exclusives, because I've seen a lot of people say that, you know, Xbox is held to a different standard, that
Sure.
it's okay if PlayStation has an
And they are.
exclusives and PlayStation, or yeah, if PlayStation has them and Xbox isn't. We'll definitely get into all of that. East Texas Alex says, as an owner of both PS5 and Xbox Series X, I don't understand the hatred towards Xbox for keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation. Either do I. I really
Same. Maybe West Texas Alex has a problem with it, but I like your way of thinking about it.
Because I'll
East.
be honest, I was in the camp that I could see a world where it was exclusive, and I was kind of expecting Xbox to leverage Call of Duty exclusivity in some way, just based on what we saw with Bethesda, based on the fact that they turned down the Destiny or the Bungie deal, and I was speculating that maybe that's because Bungie wanted to have full multi-platform, and Xbox was like, we're trying to have more exclusives. But
I think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B of PlayStation has Sony Pictures.
yes, yeah. So they want the movie, the Bungie verse, the Bungie
They want that Star
verse.
Wars.
Exactly. Bean says that Atomic Heart gameplay was insane. Further solidified it being one of my most anticipated games this year.
Gave me some BioShock meets like the 50s like anime vibes. I don't know why.
Dude, Atomic Heart has been on my radar for years now, and I really, really hope we finally get to play it this year, because I'm on the same page. That game looks like a trip, and I'm ready. I want to just get weird with it, you know?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's get weird, man.
Let's get weird. Harji Chani says, we don't really know what COD will look like going forward. If studios are tired of making COD, we could see a long span of no COD. Hashtag CODic era is over. Yeah, I am in the camp that the Call of Duty format that we know and love in air quotes, big air quotes, is dead once this deal closes. I can't imagine that Microsoft says, yeah, we're going to keep cranking out a Call of Duty every year. I cannot fathom that. And if they do,
I think they're
I
going
will
to take
be
a year break for sure.
Yeah, I will be a little annoyed, honestly, if that's their approach, because I want them to, like they've done with Sea of Thieves, their other games, like make it a platform, grow it, evolve it. You don't have to pump out a game every year. Like that is a model that we've seen Xbox move away from, even Halo Infinite being that as this platform moving forward. Just do that, please. Please stop. And no franchise, none. You cannot justify an annual release to me anymore for any franchise at all in the world.
Yeah.
JD Gamer says, Sega posts you can feel. Yeah, I got you.
That's true. That they got a great little zinger. I'll give them that.
Yeah. Crazy Lou Gaming, the super chat, appreciate it, but the message has been retracted. Oh my God. Drop it in here. Let me know what that is. JD Gamer says, looking past the current acquisitions, what do you see as Sony and Microsoft likely their next purchase? And is it the one you would want them to pick up? Name them. Okay, this is a fun game that we get to play weekly on Xbox Chaturdays, and that's the acquisition speculation game. All right, so let's do a couple things here. I want you to take Sony, and I want you to take Microsoft, and I want you to pick their next realistic acquisition. If you're thinking about who potentially is on the table and who they might be targeting, what does that look like for you?
So we, for the first time in a long time on the Trophy Room this week, went into Speculation Town. We went downtown. We did a little window shopping in Speculation Town. It was nice. But after the show, Kyle's like, man, thank God we're done with that segment, because I hate talking about acquisitions. He's just like, they're boring to me. It's like, when it happens, it happens. I'm like, oh, wow, all right. That's energy. To me, listen, PlayStation has, debatably at this point, $14 billion of walking around money. That money is going to go out and buy a publisher for sure. I think they understand that it is about content. It is not about console, and they want to lock up content. When I mean lock up, I mean make it safe that it's not going away from them, because they've seen some moves that have scared them of like, oh man, this is rapidly changing. So what I would like personally, and we've seen a little bit of it, is them expand their studios, right? So you're seeing that at Naughty Dog, Santa Monica, Insomniac. They're all making multiplayer games. London Studios as well. Gorilla as well. I like that move. That move excites me because to me, it's about the culture of PlayStation, that PlayStation DNA. That's what makes PlayStation games special to me. It's why they're my favorite publisher. And there was a great quote out of Nintendo of like, we don't want to acquire something if they don't have that Nintendo DNA. So
Hmm.
we're not going to go out there and buy a publisher. Bet your bottom dollar. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. I want that for PlayStation. I love the acquisitions that they have. When we talk about organic, I think we use that word memeable, but
Yes, it's definitely memeable.
I
Absolutely.
think it comes down to relationships. If they've had a great relationship with you, they want to put a ring on it. We saw that with Housemarque, Bluepoint, and I think they know they definitely missed it with From Software. So to me, I think it's about locking down relationships. So like whatever XDev is working on right now, I would take a look at the XDev studios. I take a look at Ember Labs, Deviation Haven, and go, okay, so what are the scope that we want to see here with Ember Lab? Do we want them to be a pixel opus where they're like indie to double A? If we're looking at Deviation, are they a multiplayer shooter? They have to though at the end of the day have that identifiable PlayStation DNA. But what I do feel like is going to happen is they have taken a look at the field in Japan and go, okay, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that Tencent comes in here and buys something. We need to lock down something. I definitely think that something is as PlayStation looks at their catalog, they go, we don't have these killer RPGs like we once did. Horizon looks great, but after Horizon, we have like a London Studio game that's like a dark Fire Sprite, that's like a dark RPG thing, but that's only two. We need to make sure we lock down RPGs and that they're never going to leave us. And that's why I'm pretty sure we're looking at Square. And
Square Enix.
yeah, we're taking a look at Square, and at that point, you could separate Square from Enix and have Eidos. Crystal Dynamics would be working on a Microsoft game, nuts, but you could have the Western studios join PlayStation Studios and Square Enix become, autonomous. I think that's a vertical acquisition. I think they work alongside PlayStation. They are not going to be PlayStation. That makes sense. Rant over. Whew,
Right.
sorry.
Okay. Whew, whew. Yeah, you bring up an interesting point about the organic stuff, and yeah, I think what's most exciting to me about a lot of these acquisitions is when they seem like a great fit. And I think the Bethesda acquisition, as much as people tried to spin that as like, oh, Xbox just trying to buy their way into the game, that round table to me that they did showed that these people all have an amazing, long, genuine relationship. And that
Yeah,
after watching that round table, I had zero nefarious thoughts about what this would look like for this team because you could tell
absolutely.
everyone was stoked. Everyone was absolutely stoked about this deal and ready to start this new chapter. And that was exciting. So, yeah, again, I think a lot of these acquisitions aren't going to be happening on either side just for the sake of doing it. I think no matter what, a lot of these acquisitions will come down to some sort of relationship. Um, and I think Square is a interesting target because they they're financially struggling in a lot of ways. Every time Square Enix puts out a big game, you hear about it underperforming. And that's if you're doing that back to back to back to back, that's putting financial hurdles on you because you're spending 5 years developing a game and it comes out and it underperforms time and time
Yeah.
again, especially on the Western side. So I think they are realistically one of the targets. I could see PlayStation scooping them up. I could see Xbox. I think both are probably having conversations with Square. We saw the interesting development with Crystal Dynamics helping with Perfect Dark. So maybe it's going to be like Square is restructuring and Xbox scoops up its Western studios and PlayStation buys the rest of Square Enix as it stands. But I do think
Yeah,
Square is a realistic target right now.
I think they're a realistic target. I think I definitely think it's going to be a weird acquisition because you're right. Like PlayStation can't have Crystal working on a Xbox thing. So what happens there? And at the end of the day, I want Crystal to be treated with respect, which I don't think they have been.
Yeah, they've yeah. Square's struggling. Square is struggling how to figure out their business, how to allocate budgets. There's a lot of things fundamentally wrong with Square's business, and I think that is leading them, as we've seen, to like skirt blame away from their publishing side and towards the developer. And several cases, Crystal Dynamics, which is probably incredibly frustrating when you work incredibly hard, have a clear vision of a project, and you are told to shift that vision to fit X kind of financial goals.
Yeah.
That's got to be upsetting. That's got to be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, no inside source, by the way. It's just a gut. It's in my gut that this is going to happen.
Yeah, it's again, I've seen people say that Square for PlayStation, Square, or basically PlayStation doesn't need to buy Square because they already have an excellent relationship, and PlayStation is already getting a lot of exclusives through Square. So I've
So
seen
that's
people
like
say
one.
that, but
Yeah.
maybe Xbox is seeing that and saying, okay, well, what if we just buy Square? Like PlayStation is getting all these RPG exclusives, but we're tired of that, so we're just going to buy Square. And I've seen people say
Yeah.
that, and maybe that's a fear, and maybe that's an incentive for PlayStation to quote unquote put a ring on it, as you said.
It's all about relationships, and Square and PlayStation have had a really good relationship since the 90s, and people kind of missed that mark. It's going to be harder for Microsoft to go out there and acquire a Japanese studio. We've heard that multiple times. So I think PlayStation has, simply just culturally and the language barrier aside, has a stronger relationship with Square. And it's all about relationships. It's not about, to me, when I'm thinking about taking something, it doesn't mean taking something away from someone else. It's just adding to you. So to me, when I'm thinking of an acquisition, it's not like, well, they already have Final Fantasy. Yeah, but they want it forever. They want it forever, and you want that, concurrent revenue or passive revenue coming from the online side to keep happening. So I definitely think Square's on the table.
Yeah, it's really interesting
And never say never, because I know there's going to be some people like they can't afford it or they can't do it. And I'm like, nope, don't never say never,
this
man.
year has again further proof that anything is possible right now.
If I said this last year, I wouldn't have believed myself. Now in February, anything's on.
In February of 2022, when we're hearing that PlayStation needs to spend, like you said, 14 billion and Xbox needs to spend 50 billion or something on top of Activision. It's like, what does that even look like? We had a hard time wrapping our head around 7.5 billion for Bethesda, and now it's just like, that's just chump change. That's just a drop in the bucket these companies are willing to throw down big dollars. So Square games undoubtedly sell better on PlayStation. There's a lot of frustrations against Square and a lot of frustrations against Xbox regarding a lot of these. I call them the all but. There's a lot of Square games that will come to every single platform except for Xbox. And I have people say, well, that means that Square hates Xbox, or that means that Sony paid to make sure that that is not the case. I've talked to people, again, privately about this situation. That's not the case. The case is that there is not a justification in terms of sales for some of these teams to put the game on Xbox. And that's a bad look for Xbox. Like, you can be upset. That's fine.
Look at Kingdom Hearts sales. I think, what was it, like 80% of the Kingdom Hearts 3 sales were on PlayStation.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, is like some of these developers and publishers feel like it's not even worth putting a port on Xbox. So it's not that they hate Xbox or they hate Xbox fans or anything nefarious like that. It's just a business justification. And Xbox has been working hard, and it's going to get better. And as games continue to have success, like Tales of Arise did surprisingly well on Xbox. And that is huge. That is a huge deal for JRPGs moving forward. And if they can keep that momentum, the games like Scarlet Nexus has got some buzz because of sales and Xbox Game Pass, basically engagement. So as those continue, it will get better, but it's not in most cases that someone is stopping it from coming to Xbox. It's that Xbox as a platform has not proven its value to that publisher.
Yeah, and I wonder, and this is again, I took a business 101 class. I know nothing, but I do wonder what happened after that Activision buyout, where the Sony CEO definitely, after their stock dropped 13%, went over to Jim Ryan and went, "So how much more do you need?" Because Sony doesn't, if history is served right, Sony doesn't take stuff lying down. So it's going to be very interesting the next few months what happens.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. And all right, so let's get into the weight of exclusives here
Okay.
and the conversation surrounding, what that means for a platform. Um, so I guess let's dive straight into the heavy questions, the big questions here. How valuable are big exclusive games for platform holders?
I think before the service, it meant getting them onto your ecosystem, which meant getting them onto your console. So someone was like, "Well, we better get Spider-Man." Right? That ain't fair. I think one day you will, don't worry. Uh, but that meant you got them onto your brand. Now I think it signifies more what that brand means uh, in terms of what you get. Again, think metaverse and think transmedia. These companies want you to identify with their brand. So I think it becomes more about brand identity more than locking it away in a box or a service. I think it becomes, when you look at PlayStation, what are you thinking about? When you're thinking about an Xbox, what are you thinking about? And are you relating to that IP and those projects? I think that's what the weight of exclusives are now, Miles. I don't know, but what would you think? What are the weight of an exclusive?
Yeah, it's a very fascinating question because you have, again, in our bubbles on social media, you have people kind of fixate and obsess about exclusives, whether it be for Xbox, whether it be for PlayStation, Nintendo, and that for a lot of people becomes the primary conversation. Like,
Yeah,
sure, Xbox has all these great third-party games, but what about the exclusives? And it's a lot of it I think comes from our traditional sense of what we know a console to be. And you go out to the store, you buy a console so you can play Halo. Growing up, if you
yeah.
wanted to play Halo, you bought an Xbox. It was that simple. And there was value in the platform and weight to that. Now, as we kind of move into this bold, brave new future, that becomes muddier. Like the weight of an exclusive, I think, becomes a lot muddier. And to me, it makes me start to question how much weight we really should be putting in exclusives. Obviously, exclusives are exciting. And obviously,
Yeah.
there's buzz. If you're an Xbox fan and you're a PlayStation fan, you want to hear about those exclusives. If you primarily play on this ecosystem, you want something that is catered to you and catered to that ecosystem. And that's undoubtedly exciting. But this leads me to my next question. Do you think it's fair to say that exclusives are inherently better? When we hear people say, like, PlayStation, because this game is exclusive, it is now better. Is that fair for anyone to
No,
say?
I think so. Again, it still comes to brand loyalty because or identity, because like Marvel has an identity now, and it lives past comics. It's in movies, and you can view it in any movie theater you want, and you could buy it on Disney Plus for sure, or see it on Disney Plus, but you could buy it on iTunes or whatever have you. So it's about, again, what does that brand mean to you, and how do you identify with it?
Yeah.
Just because something's exclusive doesn't mean it's better. Look at Crossfire X, great example. Just because it's exclusive doesn't mean it's great. And I take a look at Destruction All Stars. Um, it all comes down to the team that is making it. I am excited for Horizon because of the team and the pedigree that team has and the talent behind it. Not so much because of its exclusivity, but be, because of that talent, because of that team, I identify with PlayStation as, oh, they're going to give their devs the time and the development resources and the tools to get these things done. And that is why I respect them as a publisher for the most part. Um, or why they earn my money more than that. So that's what they mean to me.
Yeah, and it's, again, like, we're seeing more and more subscription services, and if you're trying to get people to subscribe to Game Pass, yeah, you're going to need exclusives. You're going to need exciting stuff that people can really only get there to sign up for that program. But I don't think that it's really in good faith very often that someone tells me that, oh, I'm really excited about this because it's an exclusive.
Yeah, like I'm excited for I was excited for Halo Infinite, not because it's Xbox exclusive, but because it's Halo.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
Halo.
Hellblade 2. The reason I'm stoked as hell for Hellblade 2 is because it looks wild, it looks weird, it's pushing graphical boundaries. It's not because
Hmm.
it is an Xbox exclusive. And
Yeah,
there are, arguments to be made that because it is an exclusive, it will get, extra resources and it will get time to be polished on specific platforms. And that stuff I do agree with. There will
yeah,
inherently be more polish on something that is exclusive. And the thing that I guess makes me excited about exclusive right now is the fact that these teams do get big budgets, because
yeah.
companies like PlayStation, companies like Xbox understand that they want to get people into their ecosystem on their platform, and they're using exclusives to do that. So that support to me is exciting, but the fact that a game is exclusive or not is less exciting.
Yeah, and someone mentioned Godfall, another good one.
Oh
Another good
yes,
one.
yeah, Godfall.
Oh
I played it
boy.
recently for the first time, and
Yeah.
it wasn't awful by any
It-
means, but
it's just kind of soulless. And then someone mentioned Days Gone. Listen, we don't talk about Days Gone here. All right. No, but honestly, and like when we talk about like that, Days Gone still a good game. And if that is our crackdown, then
yeah, because again,
we're in a
people
good
always
place.
bring up Crackdown. Like, I like
Yeah.
Crackdown. I recognize that it's not an amazing game.
Dude, Crackdown 1 was the goat.
Dude, Crackdown 1. I remember
So
buying Crackdown to get the Halo 3 beta.
yep.
And I was
Yep.
like, I didn't even care about Crackdown at the time. I was like, I
Nope.
just want that Halo 3 beta. And then I played Crackdown. I was like, oh damn, okay.
Oh, this is a lot of
Crackdown's
fun.
pretty good. Yeah, Crackdown's pretty good actually. Yeah.
Dude, same exact thing. I'm like, well, Crackdown, I just want to play the Halo thing. And then I was actually playing Crackdown. I was like, man, this game's actually a ton of fun. Me jumping on like skyscrapers and stuff, just running around collecting green orbs like a big dummy.
Oh, dude, feed me
Yeah,
that. Give me that
yeah.
collectathon, baby. Let's go. Eat my lizard brain.
But like also like Sea of Thieves. I love Sea of Thieves. I've put over 500 hours into Sea of Thieves. I carry Luke Lore in Sea of Thieves all the time because he's
Oh yeah,
worthless.
yeah.
We have to play. We had to. He's just Luke Lore, host of the Xbox Expansion Pass. He sucks, but go listen to his show. It's excellent. Um, you know that game's awesome. I have great memories with Sea of Thieves, but I don't. It's not like I'm like, oh yeah, Xbox, right? I'm like, no, oh yeah, Rare's awesome. It's great that they're back. You know.
Yeah, but again, Sea of Thieves, the most important new IP of the last generation, in my
Honestly,
eyes.
it's been my favorite IP of theirs. Like Halo Infinite aside, that Xbox has, it's my favorite one.
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
ooh. All right, so
Yeah.
we got to talk about the previous comments people brought up about the standard that Xbox is now held to that other people are not held to. Again, as
Yes.
someone more on the PlayStation side, do you think that Xbox has done enough to fix its exclusive problem, and
Mhm.
B, do you think there are fair criticisms of the Xbox platform that really shouldn't be ignored?
Great question. First off, they solved it. like like the one thing that I see a lot of Sony fans getting real bothered by, and I always try to give them reassurance. It's like, yo, Sony, they literally Sony fanboys, they literally spent almost $80 billion to catch up with us. Like now at this point in time, you could tell me the Xbox Pantheon is better, and I'd go, yeah, strong arguments. You got Doom Guy, Call of Duty, Crash, like sure. And then if you want to make the play that PlayStation's still the preferred, yeah, no, you got Deacon St. John, no, you got you got Joel and Ellie, right? Like they're great on both ends, and now I really feel like there's a fair comparison to say, you know what, if you prefer Xbox for X, Y, and Z, awesome. If you prefer PlayStation for X, Y, and Z, that's great. And now both have this extensive back catalog of legacy and nostalgia. At the same exact time, absolutely, there is a double standard between Xbox and PlayStation. Xbox, and when we think about Xbox, it's Microsoft and Sony to me. There is a double standard, of course, between Microsoft and Sony. It's kind of what I echoed earlier. Of course, there's going to be Xbox is going to be treated differently because it's part of Microsoft, and Microsoft is literally in your cars, on your TVs, on your tablets, on your whatever you name it, they're in it. right? So of course there is going to be a more of a, okay, so what are you doing here? By governments of the world, because they are so powerful. So of course there's going to be extra scrutiny between or behind every move Microsoft makes, um, whether it's in the Xbox umbrella or not, simply because this is a trillion, $2 trillion company. Again, that's money that most governments don't have.
Yeah.
So like there's gonna be scrutiny here. Now you could debate whether it's fair or not. Um, but yeah, there is definitely extra scrutiny. I lean towards rightfully so. If I was a government, I would break up these companies. But that's just me. And not just Microsoft. Like I love Apple. I'm an Apple fanboy. I'd break them up too. Like it's the power and the leverage that these companies have, in my opinion, way too much. So, to me, when I see consolidation of this industry, I get scared, not because Microsoft's doing it, but because it is a larger entity getting more and more power and more influence. And when I see Disney buy out Fox, as much as I'm excited for the mutants to be in the MCU, it is a bigger company owning more and more of what is already, when you take a look at TV, 4 or 5 companies own it all. That's not that much a choice for me. And that's
Yeah.
what gets me uneasy. When you take a look at cable is a great example. There's like 4 companies in the US alone that runs everything. Do you
Uh-huh.
like your cable box? No. Do
No.
you like your internet? Not if you're a Comcast user, because they've all picked apart a region of the United States and said, you could compete here, we could compete there. You could compete here, you could compete there. And it's the illusion of choice. So I don't like consolidation as a whole,
Yeah.
because I think it defeats the purpose of capitalism, because I like it. Um, but long ran aside, and I'm sorry for it.
Oh, no.
Um,
Oh, good.
they're gonna be treated differently for sure. And that means PlayStation guy over here saying it. PlayStation's gonna be able to get away with some stuff. Absolutely. And honestly, if Spider-Man's exclusive and that means he stays in the MCU, I'm sorry, Xbox guys. You're gonna have to fall on the blade here for me, man. I can't take another Sony produced Spider-Man. I know you can't either. Look at Morbius, and then you understand the sacrifices made.
Yeah, there are definitely some bigger, broader conversations to be had about
Yeah,
consolidation as a whole. Like that's always been my stance on this is, I think with the case of Activision Blizzard and King, like the way Activision Blizzard King was being run in my eyes was terrible.
yep,
And I don't think that it's going to get any worse. In fact, I am expecting it to get a lot better under Microsoft. So in that
that is
case,
fair to say.
I
Yeah,
think that's a net positive. Again,
absolutely.
ignoring the consolidation conversations. You bring up the current state of Xbox and PlayStation, and I'll rope Nintendo in right now, and it's
Sure.
it's exciting because I do feel like the playing field is getting a lot more leveled. There was a point in time where I knew a lot of people who told me that they didn't need an Xbox,
Hmm.
and there was a period of time where I wasn't going to argue that. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't like it's people who liked games would tell me I don't need an Xbox right now. Like they're not doing anything for me. And there was a period of time where I just couldn't really argue it. I was like, yeah, like I prefer it for the online, but whatever, I get it. And now we're at a point where anyone who loves video games, I feel like it's really hard to ignore what Xbox is doing, and we're at a
Hmm.
point where even now, even for ignoring, like they do have an incredibly exciting future of big games. Even if you're ignoring the future, the present of Xbox, to me, if you love gaming, it is impossible to ignore.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. As someone who again loves Xbox, prefers Xbox, things have gotten a lot better. I do think that there are some people who feel this personal connection and feel the need to defend Xbox out of this loyalty, and that's admirable. That's totally fine. But a lot of the valid criticisms of the past of Xbox now are being ignored as like concern trolling, and people just hate Xbox. Xbox had a period of time where they were not doing things as they should have, and people, like I said, will hold resentment for that, and there will
Yeah.
be grudges, and it will take a lot of time and a lot of work for Xbox to move past that, and they've been doing it. What I love about Xbox is it's not just talk anymore. Like everything that they've told you, they are doing. They told you years ago they're going to get more exclusives. They told you they were going to expand Game Pass. They told you they were going to have the most powerful hardware.
Expand past the hardware too. And they've done everything. That's why, like, you made such a great point, and I feel like it gets lost on the internet because we have to have the scoreboard. It's like both companies are doing really great right now. They're making right now PlayStation's in the wow, that just happened. We need to answer what Microsoft's doing, because you're right. They have done so much to win back faith. Look, what is it, 2013 with the Xbox One? I never saw myself purchasing another Xbox. I during the whole PlayStation generation, 90%, 95% was on PlayStation. Now I'm like 60-40, right? There's no arguing that Xbox is the best service in games. If you do, you're delusional. There's there there is so much value in trying to break into that mobile market. It is awesome to see Microsoft being so strong and having really this one app and this one unified vision that, if I'm honest with myself, they haven't really had since, I feel like, the beginning of the Xbox 360 era, at least in my heart. And it seems like they're so focused of getting back to the games that it is in their identity. And I understand that, Phil Spencer often gets this like God worship. He's done an amazing job for that company, and he is transforming the industry in a way we've never seen, and at a speed we've never seen before. I have a lot of respect for that. In when I take a look at where Xbox is right now, the weight of exclusives is the number one exclusive they got is Game Pass. It's like the fact that, like, I can take a chance on Crossfire X and get burned by it, but go, at least I didn't have to pay whatever the amount was. I could go out there, get lost in Sea of Thieves, and then the next moment go play Halo on my toilet. Like, that's great.
Oh, that's
That's the
the world
future I
wanna
want to live in.
Yeah, it's right there with you.
Sometimes you just had Chipotle the day before and you're paying the price, but you still want to play your games.
Yeah, you're mid-match, something comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Pull up that phone, baby. Let's do
Exactly.
it. But yeah, it's things are really interesting, and I do understand this kind of fixation with Xbox fans when it comes to wanting the clap back, because
Mhm.
there were and still are a lot of obnoxious PlayStation fans who
Sure.
wanted to just basically make people who played on Xbox feel bad. Like, you're playing on
Yeah.
Xbox sucks, Xbox has no games, blah blah blah.
Yeah. I've
And
also muted Crap Gamer. I understand.
yeah, and that is such a small percentage, but I
He's like,
like, people
yeah.
take that and they're like, well, Sony fans were mean to me once upon a
Yeah.
time, and now I want my chance to be the meanie. I want
Yeah.
Xbox to say, haha, you suck, you don't get to play Call of Duty because I want to dunk on this person from a dunk from 6 years ago. Like, that is the
Yes.
energy I'm seeing, and it's unhealthy. I gotta say,
It
it's
is
a little
unhealthy.
it's a
I
little
saw
unhealthy.
one person where they're like, "We've been fighting the good fight for years."
Fighting
I'm like,
there's
fighting what fight?
why are
What
you
is
fighting
this?
anyone? Calm
You need to
down.
go outside ASAP. That is some loser energy that I don't need in my life. I
So
don't know what to tell you there, bud. But like, to me, I understand it though at the same exact time of, like, if you have been a fan for the past, what, like, I don't know, like 5 years of Xbox, it has been rough. And so you're getting these wins and you want people to take this brand seriously, and you're adamant on it because you see the value and you've seen the value before, the IGNs of the world did, right? And so you want that. You want that win. And you do feel a little of a personal thing because you've seen so many of these dumb trolls on Twitter constantly bash the thing that you love. So you want to see the clap back. You want to say, like, you know what, you got Spider-Man, so we're buying a whole publisher. I definitely understand that energy, that passion, but it's at the same time misplaced because we are forgetting that people make these things and that people play these things, that people enjoy these things. And so for me, the weight of the exclusive is going away, or not going away. It's meaning something different now. And it comes down to, yeah, sure, I could buy a Disney property at Best Buy, but I can have it for $9.99 on Disney Plus. That's where the exclusive argument's going to be. And that's why I believe in the day that you're going to see both of these apps on each other's boxes. Like when we're talking about the multi-platform games, or sorry, multiplayer games that PlayStation's playing, I absolutely believe that there are going to be some of them you play on an Xbox. And I know it sounds crazy now, but
No,
like
they said it was impossible, Joe.
I could see that future. We're playing Last of Us Factions on Xbox, because when we talk about stuff like that, it means you need that engagement. So like, to me, I see the barriers being broken down way faster than people think, and I'm hoping that the breaking down of barriers means that we can move past this idea of us versus them. You know, you can have Apple Music on Android. You can have the whole Google suite on iPhone. And look, Microsoft will make Word for both of them, but they're still competing with each other, and they're still fighting for your, bandwidth. So I think that's where the conversation will soon transition to, from consoles to apps, and hopefully it dissolves a little bit, because I don't see the same energy, Miles. And maybe because I'm not a movie guy or a tech guy as much anymore, I don't see the same energy for like Apple versus Android anymore. I don't see that energy of going like, you own Netflix, boo, Hulu's the way to go. Or like,
yeah, that cracks me up. Think those conversations where there's no app loyalty. You're like, Disney Plus exclusives are trash, dude. I only watch HBO.
Exactly. Peacekeeper's better than anything the MCU's ever done.
Peacekeeper slaps, by the way. Gotta say,
dude,
that's
it's so good. So good. God, give James Gunn all the things. But like, you don't have that energy. There's this weird FU energy for games, and I really want us to get over it, because it's dumb.
And I get like from the people talk about the sports analogies, and they say like it's like rooting for your sports team and you're kind of rooting for the other team to lose, blah blah blah. And it's like, sure, that's playful in some ways, and I guess I can obviously see parallels there, but so much of that now is way beyond that. It's not about playful back and forth. It's about literally wanting someone to be destroyed, and it's scary. It's a little scary.
It's the one ring that rule them all logic that I can't get behind.
No. Again, like,
I don't like it.
People say, oh, well, yeah, there's a double standard. Xbox has to make everything multi-plat, but PlayStation, Nintendo shouldn't. Like, I want to play Pokemon on my Xbox. Like, if they did a games as a service Pokemon game and put it on Xbox, oh, Lord, I would be all about that. I would be fine if Joe wanted to play Sea of Thieves on his PlayStation and they put Sea of Thieves on PlayStation. Yo, let's go. Let's squad up. Let's do it.
My dream, and we're getting there, is to play Halo on a DualSense controller.
Gross. Stop it. Now that's too far. No, you're taking it too far. Okay? Like, we're going to talk about this in the next topic, about how sometimes you just need to concede and you just need to, do what works. When you have Nintendo copying the stick alignment, it's time. It's time to jump on. So
well, I mean, these are the same people that think that the Joy-Con controllers are,
I mean,
good.
The Joy-Con, that's a different conversation. The Pro Nintendo Switch controller,
it falls nice in the hand, but it doesn't feel great for anything other than Smash Brothers.
I don't know. But my main point is PlayStation needs to realize that its sticks are in the wrong position and move on.
Yeah.
Just take the L. Quit doing it out of spite. I feel like it's 99% spite, 0% ergonomics. But outside of that, I like PlayStation.
It feels good. I like it. I like a cut of your jib right now. We're having a nice conversation before this.
You ruined it. No.
You ruined it.
All right. So speaking of other companies copying each other, I put out an editorial on Windows Central yesterday talking about how I think, in my opinion, that Xbox needs an answer to a Nintendo Direct. And This stems from a lot of the frustrations I've seen from Xbox fans, from critics about the future of Xbox. And even when I put this huge list, this humongous list of exclusives that are coming to Xbox, I had people telling me, like, that's not enough. I had people telling me, oh, well, we haven't seen these games. We haven't seen any gameplay. These are just names. So even with this huge, bright future on the horizon for Xbox, there was so much pessimism about it. And it got
Really?
me thinking, where does that come from? Why are people so pessimistic about the future of Xbox? And then
Mm.
it got me kind of, seeing the hype that follows every single Nintendo Direct, and how Nintendo ahead of these presentations tells you, here's when you can expect these games and here's what you can expect. So all of these games we're going to show you are coming in the next 6 months. Like, get excited, get hyped up. Xbox doesn't do that. Xbox relies heavily on E3, the Game Awards, traditional media, and there's really only like one or two big marketing messaging beats for Xbox per year for their games.
Yeah, you have like the X conferences, right, that are in November. Um, but even then, it's like, I think ever since the acquisitions that they did for the makers of Wasteland, I forget what they're called right now.
Oh, in
In
Exile.
Exile, thank you. There hasn't been much of that. And you're right, dude. You are 110% right. Look at what Nintendo's able to do. They're able to show you games you've been able to play for decades. Mario Strikers, Splatoon 3, which looks dope, and it is one of the best multiplayer shooters ever made. I don't care. I'll take that to the grave. And then they'll show you the throat goat themselves, Kirby, swallowing up a car. And you're like, this is great. And we're all excited because Nintendo fans, y'all are some weird bunch, but they understand their culture so well of what makes Nintendo fans click. And there was something about having a, quarterly announcement, something to get you excited, a nice package of games coming your way that you can expect, that Microsoft does not have, and to an extent PlayStation doesn't have either. Like, the absence and just waiting for E3, you kind of lose out on exciting the fan base of why you should be excited for this product. And when you do them, it's these weird Twitch things that are like 4 hours long.
Nobody wants to watch a 4-hour showcase. Even the Game Awards, I was like, Jeff, boy, over 3 hours? What on earth are you doing, my man?
I gotta go sleep, Jeff.
Like, I love you. I love video games, but I have shit to do. All right.
Exactly. But yeah, so like, I do feel like there should be a presentation, a direct style thing that Xbox can use to excite the fans and to really nail down, for not just Xbox fans, but people looking outside of, here's what the culture of Xbox is. I think you have that so expertly done on Nintendo's behalf of, like, when you look at a game, you know that what this game's going to be on Nintendo. You have that feeling in your heart. This is a Nintendo thing, or this is a thing I would play on my Switch, even if it's multi-platform. You don't have that same energy on Xbox. And you're right, it can't just be reserved for Halo or E3. It needs to be. It needs to. They need to have their own event, man.
They yes, because coming off the high, like the high of holiday for Xbox, where they had Psychonauts 2, Forza Horizon 5,
Yes.
Halo Infinite, all games that literally won Game of the Year awards from multiple outlets. Like multiple of these, if we're ignoring the key game awards, whatever, like there were still people who held these as Game of the Year games. Coming off that, immediately into pessimism. Like, people are like, Xbox has no games coming out until Starfield or Redfall, and Redfall might get delayed. And there's just all of this negativity immediately after this high. And it just really makes me feel that Xbox is not doing a great job telling its fans what games to expect. We know for a fact there will be dozens and dozens of rad games coming to Game Pass in the next 3 months. And it really makes me feel like they need to reevaluate their format and present it, even if it's not all first party. I get that you can't stack a show every few months with first party games. Partner with third party, partner with Game Pass titles, and give fans a showcase that says, This is what you can expect from Xbox in the next 3 months, and here's why you should be excited about Xbox. I want Xbox to have a show that has that Nintendo Direct hype. I see a lot of fans talk about, the disappointment following Nintendo Directs, and a lot of it comes from the fact that anything is possible with the Nintendo Direct. So they're, and that sets this wild precedent for speculation. So people are like, they didn't show Metroid Prime 4, so this show was absolute garbage. And that's unfair. But that being said, Xbox, outside of its main traditional E3 showcases, doesn't do that marketing beat well.
No. Yeah, and I think you're totally right. Would you like to see them, though, it just beat for beat, this is a Nintendo Direct, but just Xbox?
Honestly, what I love about the Nintendo Direct and why I think the format is so successful is there's no fluff, there's no filler. It is a tight showcase of games and gameplay, a mix
no trebuchets.
Yeah, no trebuchets. Like they've done Inside Xbox, which some people are comparing to Nintendo Directs. No, not the same. Inside Xbox was not a bad format inherently, but when it's your only primary format of communicating with your audience, it's too much. There's too much dialogue. Not everyone is there for it. I liked it.
It seemed like an infomercial more than a presentation, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it wasn't exciting for a casual viewer. And that's something that, again, if you're a hardcore Xbox fan, awesome. I want to show this for gaming fans across any platform. I want people to look at these Xbox shows as a PlayStation fan, someone as a Nintendo fan, and say, "Oh damn, Xbox Direct is coming up, baby, let's go!" Like I want that energy. And Xbox, as forward-thinking as they are, I feel like the way that they showcase games is one component of their business that feels tied to the past. And Xbox right now is exciting. They're nimble, they're bold, they're doing new things. Xbox Game Pass disrupting the industry, but then like we're just getting like a static image. Like here's 12 games coming to Game Pass, which is cool, which is exciting. But the fact that absolute bangers like Nobody Saves the World didn't get any buzz.
Watch the B word around me, bud.
Hey, I know you love it. I know you're a big fan of them bangers, but the fact that stuff like Nobody Saves the World didn't get this cool buzz leading up to launch, and there wasn't this cool showcase to show you like, yes, get excited about this game. Sure, it's an indie game, but still, it's rad as hell. The fact that we didn't get an Xbox Direct with some Elden Ring footage and other Game Pass titles, like they have ways to do it. I understand it's a lot of work. I understand you're asking a lot of the production teams of developers to give you these slices, but it can be done. It absolutely can.
I mean, like, and you could have it. Like, my problem with PlayStation State of Plays is you have this one brand, State of Play, and so it could go from a State of Play solely focused on Horizon to like these weird indies to all these awesome PlayStation Showcase things. There's no consistency to their message, and that's my problem with PlayStation's style. Xbox's style is it has to get the personalities out of the way. I don't want any celebrity host. I don't want anything. Just give me a disembodied voice talking to me about what I could expect out of the next 4 months.
Here are the rad games coming to Xbox this summer.
And then you have like welcome to the Xbox experience. Here are the games coming to Game Pass in the that's awesome. Like
fans of first-person shooters should get excited for.
Exactly. Like give me that. And then you can have, the host on stage for your E3s showing off Starfield so I can finally get excited for it. Like I've only seen images. I don't know what this game is.
See, and so many people say that about every big Xbox game right now, and they're not wrong. They're not they're not fundamentally wrong in saying that.
Yeah. So like you could still have those big showcases with the host and the cool conversations and whatnot. But man, you definitely need something that in the lull months of just like, hey, whoa, you say that there's nothing. We're going to show you something. Here's, again, an Xbox experience from our partners. And then you could just show and showcase, and just say, hey, this is an indie showcase we're doing. Hey, this is a AA showcase we're doing. Hey, here is the big one that we're going to be showing you guys, and get excited for Xbox constantly, man. That's such a, and I feel like, and maybe you could tell me that I'm wrong here, but there's such a begrudgingness to Xbox doing that. Like they're like, no, we are adamant on doing this this weird thing with all these hosts and all the hours on Twitch. Like we're adamant that we want to do this because it's different. And I'm like, but it's not effective.
Yes, there are things like This Week on Xbox, which is a breakdown of pretty much a key highlight of games coming to Xbox. Most people don't know that show even exists. Like you can
I
talk to
don't.
the average person.
You
No,
just told
nobody.
me.
Yeah, nobody knows that shows exist, and that's their problem. Is they're spread out. There's like State of Decay deep dives, Sea of Thieves deep dives, which are cool for that dedicated audience. But why not leverage that into one show? So you like maybe someone who hasn't been invested in Sea of Thieves in the core community can see that and go, oh damn, that looks rad. I want to check out Sea
Yeah.
of Thieves, or I want to check out this new update in State of Decay. And they do their own teams do an amazing job, basically catering to their community and fostering a great community. But I want to see more synergy with Xbox in terms of bringing all of
That's
these
a great
things
point.
together and just give me a tight 30 minutes and get
Yeah.
people excited because again, I'm invested in the Xbox ecosystem. I'm in tune with all of the updates, but a lot of people aren't. And that's where a lot of this pessimism comes in. And when you aren't clear with your messaging, if you're not communicating what people can expect and when they can expect it, they will fill in the gaps with pessimism. As we've seen,
Mhm.
100% of the time, silence will be filled with pessimism. And
Yeah.
that's why companies, generally speaking, are a lot better about communicating with their audience. But Xbox in this avenue is not. They had
Yeah.
Inside Xbox. There hasn't been something to fill that. And I think they really need to look at what Nintendo does with the Nintendo Direct and give fans an answer because Xbox has stuff to get hyped about. And the fact that the average person isn't that's a problem.
Yeah. You want to be out there and more than just like you've done a great job of giving Xbox personality on Twitch. Their social media team, I know a few of them and they're
Just kills it. Like
just kills it.
just kills
But
it.
the one thing that I think it should be a focus as well is like you have great personality, but also like talk to me about stuff.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like I have no idea that that weekly show exists. I'd like to see it. Now, also in my defense, I don't seek it out, but it'd be nice to actually know. Oh yeah, if I wanted to, it's here. You know, having a ID at Xbox event every quarter as well would be awesome to show your indie support that you've been killing it with and then giving them extra spotlight and not to mention what that could do for you in terms of selling ad space on these events because that's what Nintendo and PlayStation does. You can have that extra little revenue as well to help fund these teams. It just really it really makes so much sense. Um and again, at the end of the day, is it the most important thing in the world? Probably not, but
Yeah.
it is something to help feed the frenzy that is we need more information to
Mhm.
get excited. Because you're right, it becomes pessimism and speculation. If there's two things I hate most in the world, it is speculation. It is it is I'll allow it every once in a while, but it is pessimism. It's like, yeah, the world's too much of that. So give us that distraction, man. I agree wholeheartedly. And again, have I love the state of plays where they're like, hey, here's a game coming out. They did it similarly with Halo, and I loved it. Where it's like, hey, um, this is the Horizon state of play. We're giving you a deep dive, a vertical slice of this game. Here it is. You know, here's the Ghost of Tsushima vertical slice. Here it is. Here's the bits and pieces. Get you hyped for this game. I really hope Microsoft does more and more of those as well, because I feel like when it comes to Xbox and the games, they do the ads for the showcase, and then they're like, and here's the social media stuff. Here's a ad here or there, and we're done. Feed that fan base.
Yeah.
We're ravenous, and I know it's never enough, but give us a little something.
Exactly. And again, it's easier said than done. Yeah, we're always going to want more. There's going to be no happy medium for some people, but at the end of the day, like Xbox does such an amazing job communicating its near future. We know a lot about about the distant future, but we don't
Yeah,
know about the near future very often. Like
yeah,
Redfall apparently is still coming out this summer. We haven't seen a second of gameplay, not a second of gameplay, and that is a problem.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. I don't think Redfall's coming out this year.
It's yeah, I don't think it's coming out this summer. I mean, we're getting close. We're going to be at closing in on March, and we haven't seen gameplay. People
Yeah.
still think this is a Left 4 Dead clone online, and
Right.
that's a good place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, and that's the pessimism. Like I don't see it. I'm like, therefore, I'm not. It's not coming out. But it could be a Ghostwire where it comes out in a month. Who knows? But you're right. We need to see more of these games. I do get the criticism that Xbox shows us a lot of CG stuff, and I think that criticism is valid. Though I think later on, as we get deeper into development, because remember, Xbox bought these things. They're still building these things
Mm-hmm.
as these projects come closer and closer and the pipeline becomes more and more transparent and visible and tangible, even that complaint's also going to be going away as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So I just think in the meantime, it would be nice to have a quarterly thing of here's what you can expect, here's what to get excited for. Because trust me, as a PlayStation fan, I know how annoying it is when they don't talk. They didn't talk forever. Like, they didn't talk for a whole year last year. You know how making an actual show, how hard it is? Every week's a struggle. So like, yeah, it helps that community. It helps it feel good because then there is that pessimism like, well, nothing's happening here. And you it's kind of like the Squidward meme where he's looking out the window and he sees
Oh, people
Patrick and
having fun.
SpongeBob
Yeah.
having fun. Yeah. That's what it feels like, man. That's what it feels like. And I want that for every community because yeah, like that Nintendo Direct. Listen, I'm not as strong Nintendo as I once was. We have a whole segment where I yell about it, but you know, that fan base walked out so happy
So
and
many
so like
beautiful
excited.
memes. Just
Oh my god, Kirby alone,
Kirby.
hilarious. But like they walked around exhilarated from that. I want that across the board, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox or even whatever. Gabe Newell can have a Valve Direct for all I care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Xbox was in a lose-lose situation going into this generation when it comes to like they had the narrative that they had no games, so they had to come out early and announce a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And now people are like, "Well, you showed those games years ago and we still haven't seen them." So now they're in this situation where people are complaining that they showed games too early. And that on the reverse side, you have stuff like Kirby and the Forgotten Land where they announced that game and they're like, "Hey, 6 months later, this banger open world Kirby game you're going to play." And people are like, "Oh, dang, what?" Like, I would love that. Like, if Halo Infinite was a 6-month turnaround, ooh,
Yeah.
imagine that. If
Yeah.
Hellblade 2, you get that, you got the Series X reveal, you got the Hellblade 2 trailer, and then they're like, "Yo, dog, it's launching with the Series X." Like, give me that. Like, I know they can't do that
Yes.
every time, and they have to fill in the gaps with messaging at some point, but give me a few of those. Like, give me a
Yeah.
few of those turnarounds.
I mean, how awesome would it be? It's like, hey, here's a you know, the headlining is like the Halo Infinite like season 2, and then here's a couple of games that'll lead you up to that. I think that'd be awesome synergy. I think Xbox's next area of improvement is synergy because the one thing that I love about PlayStation, we literally saw it last week where it's like, hey, Horizon's coming out. And you literally see all their studios congratulating Horizon, putting up the Horizon tweet. You got Sucker Punch literally working with them to put in a suit for Jin in Ghosts, and like that's so awesome to see because you feel like they're all part of a broader team of like this does feel like, you know, to make a Fast and Furious thing, it's not about games, it's about family. And I want that for Xbox real bad. I think synergy is their next key focus more than anything else going in the future.
I think that some teams I think have done a really good job. Sea of Thieves in particular, like the Halo ship crossover, the State of Decay ship crossover. State of Decay has a bunch of like Sea of Thieves content and other crossover content. Like I do love that, and Nintendo does a really good job with that as well, bringing all of their franchises together in these games and getting people excited. And that's just fun.
You've seen a glimmer of that with Xbox. I'd love to see more of it. Like you saw, like, you know, Noble Team in Gears. It's like, oh my god, that's awesome. Now let's see Delta Squad come in, like a Delta Squad themed, you know, Halo armor. Like, yes,
you're gonna put Halo and Gears, but you're not gonna put Gears and Halo. I'm sorry, I got a red flag there.
Yeah, let me play as Doom guy and not Halo, but Gears.
Yeah.
Like rip and tear, man.
Dude, rip Doom guy in Gears of War? Come on.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Until
it.
the Nasher is done. Like it's just oh,
Oh, all right. We got one more topic here that I want to touch on,
all right.
just
This
for
one's a
fun,
serious
dudes.
one.
Uh,
This one's a serious one. It's not for
this one's
fun. This is
dead.
for
Yeah, this is dead serious. This is where we settle this once and for all, Joe, because
yeah.
I have publicly called you Mr. Bad Take on this front here, because you are in the camp of people who thinks that Bloodborne is better than Dark
Yes.
Souls 3. And
God, yes.
we got to touch on it, dude. So
Uh-huh.
just answer me. Like, why do you love Bloodborne so much? Just tell me
It's
right
so
now.
funny because you know what? Ains has made this Ains of Season Gaming has made this such a big deal that like to
It
me, in my heart of hearts, it's like Bloodborne, and it's so close after that is like Dark Souls 3. And then it's Sekiro.
don't
Because
don't.
like they're all three of them are great. I can only speak to why I love Bloodborne.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Before we dive into this, I
Yeah.
just want to let
Please.
everyone know, like, this is just for fun. Like, obviously, this is just
No, I will judge you immensely, Miles.
this is just silly. Mostly, I just want to hear. I
Yeah.
just love hearing about why people love certain video games. Like, I
Yeah.
ranked all the Dark Souls games, all the From Software games. They're all amazing. They're all
Yeah.
like, even Dark Souls 2, which I consider the
Hmm.
worst of all
Can't
of
get
them.
through it. Yeah.
8 out of 10. Still a
Sure.
fantastic game. So
Sure.
I understand why people like Bloodborne. It's just we just gotta have some fun here. So yes, tell everyone here why you love Bloodborne and why you do think it is a quote unquote better From Software title than Dark Souls.
My favorite. Because here's the thing: it may be still 30 FPS, and yes, you go into Old Yarnum, and that thing's gonna chug. But it's the jalopy of which I love. So the reason why I was always intimidated about From Software games because everybody told me they're incredibly hard. Oh, and as I rep the Trophy Room Elden Ring shirt, look at that.
Oh, look at
Themes, thematic.
hey, damn.
But you know, the reason why I love Bloodborne is I was always scared of From Software games. Everybody told me they're too difficult, they're too hard, or whatever.
Mhm. That's the
And
meme.
that's the meme. It's too difficult. And there was something about it when I saw it the first time. The setting just had me, this like horror Victorian
Yes.
vibe that was just like I had it when the blunderbuss was on like the wolf guy's face. I was like, oh, it's about to go down. I'm about to go fight. I'm gonna go fight some beasts. And I remember playing the game for the first 3 hours, first day, and I hated it. It's like this game sucks. I hate this. Everybody was right. This is too hard. And like all From Software games, Sekiro including in this list, there's a moment where it clicks. You kind of
Yes.
surrender
Yes.
to it. And instead of fighting with the game, you're just going through the motions. And when that clicks, there's no better feeling. So like I remember beating the cleric beast on the first try. I was like, oh my God,
Heart
this
pounding.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I get it. Like the dopamine hit. And then I fought Father Gascoigne. What a awesome boss, because he is the first wall. It's like if you could get past Father Gascoigne, we can guarantee you can get through every single boss in this game. He is the first, as a kid, say "get good" boss or the skill
Yes.
check. And when I beat him on like the fourth try, I was just like, oh my God, this is this game's amazing. And I went through it all, every boss. I was like, this isn't difficult. It's just I need patience. These games aren't hard or get good. No, a lot of them are just what is this game teaching me right now? And I think Bloodborne is the most forgiving because blood vials are not as good as Estus flasks, because to me makes it so much easier. You have so many times you can heal with blood vials, and the fact that you can make up for a mistake if you miss an enemy's pattern by hitting them back and getting most of your health back. That's awesome. I love that. It's tainted me from a lot of games because that's what I'll do now. I'm like, oh, you hit me while I could still hit you back and get some health. It's like that's not how this works. But it was also the setting, because they sold me on this. We're hunting beasts. We're hunting werewolves. And then midway through, Because when people like Bloodborne has no story, I'm like, well, you just don't want to. You don't want to read. Is what you want. So midway through this story, it flips, right? And it becomes less about beasts and more about this horror of which is all around you, but you can't see. And that's where insight plays in Bloodborne. When you get more insight, you are slowly losing your sanity, but at the same time, starting to see things in the background of this game that were always there. And that is what I love about Bloodborne is the mystery, the lore, the location, the setting, and yes, the characters. You want to know what happened to Ludwig, right? Like, where is he? Why am I the only hunter here? What is this? Is this just a dream? Can I transcend? Everybody's going mad about trying to kind of cheat death almost. And it was just unlike anything I've ever played before. And so that's why I love Bloodborne. It just gave me an experience that I never knew I've wanted and something that now defines me as a gamer because now I'll try anything. Anything, I'll give it a shot, no matter the reputation or whatnot, because Bloodborne taught me there's a gem in every genre. And that's why I hold a lot of appreciation. Yes, is it, 30 frames still and they need to get to
That's an
work?
absolute tragedy, but
It's a tragedy. It's like oh my god, it's like Plagueis the Wise, man. It's so good. Anyway, nonetheless, but like that's why I love like Dark Souls 3 is fantastic at 60 FPS. It's so good. But Miles, I'm gonna throw a little shade. I can't remember most of the boss fights.
what? Okay, okay. I mean,
Can't.
let me preface by saying that I love hearing people's Bloodborne stories because for a lot of people, Bloodborne is the reason they fell in love with From Software. And for me, I love hearing that because I love From Software. Like I've played all of their games at launch. I didn't always love them. Demon Souls, I've infamously played PS3, stopped, didn't really get it. Came back to
Yeah.
Dark Souls 1. Didn't really beat Dark Souls 1 first try. Came back to it like a year later and that's like you said, it clicked. And then it clicked and I was like, yes, I do really, really love this formula. I love the experimentation. For me, I love Bloodborne. Bloodborne, like the second Bloodborne was announced, I was getting a PS4. Like
Yeah.
that was the reason I was gonna get a PS4 regardless, but that was the game where I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. No question. From Software is doing this gothic horror take. Let's go. Amazing game, phenomenal. Don't have a ton of criticisms of Bloodborne.
Yeah.
The reason that I prefer Dark Souls 3 is because From Software, like you've mentioned, has always had incredible lore deep within its kind of overarching combat. It's always had incredible environments. And Dark Souls 3 to me is the culmination of all of that. It's got the best spread of environments. In my opinion, it's one of the rare times where I play a game and I can remember every single detail of every
Same.
single area. I can like the paths just stick. And that's rare. There's no map, there's no HUD. It's just really well designed. And for me, Bloodborne, I love the aesthetic. I'm a huge horror fan. Like the creature design in Bloodborne is arguably their best because I love the gross From Software. And they've always had the gross elements, but Bloodborne was their just we're
Embrace.
going all in. This entire game is going to be gross. And I love it for that. That being said, it doesn't have the same memorable areas to me. Like it's got amazing bosses, some of my favorite bosses that they've ever done. But as I'm exploring the overall world, it starts to blend together. Whereas Dark Souls 3, there's the swamp, there is the Ethereal Castle, there's the ice area. There's all these really
The
distinct.
castle is so good.
Oh
The scenery of Dark Souls 3 is just chef's kiss.
yeah.
Like the
Oh my
skybox
god.
when you first see the castle, you're like, "Oh my god, this is beautiful."
Even at 900p on Xbox One, it still looks incredible.
Oh, you're gonna make me go back. Damn it.
Dude, so it's again, like I absolutely understand why people love Bloodborne and maybe like Bloodborne more than Dark Souls 3 because a lot of it I think comes down to that aesthetic. That world that they created with Bloodborne is such a specific tone, such a specific feeling and From Software is one of the best developers in the game right now when
The
it comes
best.
to world building.
When someone literally asked me, because the whole acquisition thing's getting nuts. They're like, if Microsoft were to buy From Software, and I go where Miyazaki goes. Like
Yes.
wherever he goes, I follow. Even like for me, Miles, I know this is gonna give you a heart attack. I find it incredibly difficult to play From Software games on an Xbox controller because I feel like it's just not made for it. Because for me, it's like it just the DualSense makes sense, or the DualShock makes sense for those games. I know, Miles. I know I've disappointed you, sir. But seriously, like to me, if I can I spoil it like Bloodborne a little bit?
It's we're
I mean,
if you don't care
we're
about
8 years.
if you're upset about spoilers, mute it right now. But
Yeah.
we're beyond the
I'll hold
window.
out my hand right here, and then when I put it down, it's done. Okay. So starting right now, here you go. There is no, there was a get hype moment when at the end, Guerman joins the hunt, and I'm like, wait, what? And he gets up out of his chair, and I'm like, what? And he's this giant, and he puts out this scythe, and I'm like, oh, it's about to go down, and that mother effer showed me it was gonna go down like 24 times. And when I finally beat him, and now hands down, look, we're back. This is great. There was no sense of like, or there's just an overwhelming sense of like, I have to go back and do this again. Bloodborne is that game where I literally, when there's downtime, I play it. I can beat Bloodborne in an afternoon. I know where everything is. I know how to get the true ending. It's home in a weird twisted sense. And like any from software really is like that as well for me. It's just like there really isn't quite a game like it, and they reinvented the action RPG to me.
Yes,
Um,
hands down.
there's no doubt about it.
I see. Rand Al Bad Take has entered the chat, and in case you don't know,
Yeah.
Rand is someone who hates joy.
Uh-huh.
I think he actually hates video games entirely,
Oh
and he
wow.
is like actively against Elden Ring. He's
Really?
anti. He's down with Elden Ring, down with From Software, and that's a fundamental flaw of him as a human being, I think. So,
As a human being.
shout out to
The
him.
man with a million.
The man with a million bad takes is what I call.
Oh,
Zoop!
oh my God, Rand, are you gonna take this, man?
I love
You gonna take
Rand.
this,
Rand's
son?
a good
No,
sport,
he's
and
a good man.
that's why we have a little fun. But
Yeah.
yes, you touch on all of the reasons that myself, you, and so many others. Jez Corden recently finally kind of
Dude,
started
it's so
understood.
awesome seeing him fall in love with it all. So awesome. It's like you're seeing like that memory that like we all have when it clicks, and then you're just addicted to it.
Yeah.
It's like you're seeing it there firsthand.
Yes.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So you said that Sekiro you would
Yeah.
put third, right? Underneath.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sekiro, I have to admit, like I picked up Sekiro as someone who had played played and beat every single From Soft game up until that point,
Mhm.
and I had to put it down. It got
Really?
yeah, like I hit a wall with the Makiri counter in that. When you fight your first spear guy, and I was like,
Yeah.
everything I know about Dark Souls is gone. Like I can't roll. I can't, like, everything that I've been trained to do with the previous games, I have to throw away. And I remember getting so frustrated with that particular
Really?
fight. So I put it down for a good 6 months. And
Ooh.
then I came back to it. And then again, it just clicked. And Sekiro, I would argue that maybe Sekiro is From Software's best take on it. Oh,
Can I say something crazy?
yeah.
So,
Sure.
very similar. I bought Sekiro day one, and I could not get past the first boss. I'm like, because like the Makiri counter, you're right. That like it's just a different combat. And every time when a From Software fan like us tries to explain it, we sound like Charlie Day and Always Sunny with the
Okay,
board.
so
It's like you don't understand. They added jumps. You know, it's like
I wasn't used to jumping. Why'd you? I can't. My
and they're
brain
like, it's a
can't
jump.
handle
What
the
do you mean?
jump.
Sekiro is probably I added that flair.
Ooh.
I think it is by far the best From Software combat.
Yes.
Um,
When you
by
get in
far,
the flow and you just feel like a true
when you're
badass
deflecting, when you're
ninja and you're just
parrying.
stabbing
Ooh,
people in the heart, rolling over to the next guy, stabbing him in the back. Oh,
like here's a hot take. Sekiro has the best boss fights. Like
Guardian Ape,
Genichiro, Guardian Ape, dude. When you get
Sword
down
Saint.
Guardian Ape, Sword Saint is a real son of a gun. Now that said, they also have the worst boss fight, which is the owl fight. He could eat rocks, kick rocks. I hated that fight so much. I almost gave up on the game. I literally uninstalled it, downloaded it like 2 times. I'm like, I'm done.
Really?
I just can't do it. I just can't do it. But when that combat clicks, it's just so damn good. And the only thing that is the fault of this game is its linearity and some of its levels. I'm not a big like the monkeys overstay their welcome very fast. I'm like, oh, this is a cute little gimmick that's gonna, be here for like a half a level. It's like, no, this is actually a big part of it. And man, those white monkeys with the two swords, they're they're something else. So like some of its linearity and making it feel like I I couldn't customize the wolf to be me or the way he looks kind of took it away for me. But there's no doubt about it. Sekiro is hands down their best action. Because
Yeah.
yeah, when those fights are so memorable. Lady Butterfly, that when I got her down, because like the fights really become a dance. When you get those fights down, there's just an adrenaline that pumps into you, unlike anything. So like, if you wanted to say, I'm a real easy lay when it comes to this. If you want to say Bloodborne's your favorite, you're right. If you want to say Dark Souls 3 is your favorite, you're right. And if you want to say Sekiro is your favorite, you're absolutely right. But if you try to come in here with the, well, Lords of the Fallen has, I say you get that Souls light out of
Go.
my
Go.
face.
Yes.
They're gone.
I agree. Again, it's hard to pick because a lot of them are so good, and I could see anyone making a case. I don't like when people are like super extreme and say, "Oh, well, dude, this game is clearly better." I'm like, they're all like
They're okay.
borderline 10 out of 10,
Yeah.
absolute perfect RPGs. So
It's like they're like, what cars faster, like a Porsche or a Mercedes or whatever. I don't know cars, and they're like, whatever. They both go vroom vroom, and they're really like they're high quality, so it doesn't matter which one goes faster or which one doesn't.
the Sword Saint fight for Sekiro, that was one of those
Oh,
moments. Like that boss fight, no exaggeration, probably took me 10 tries, and it
huh.
was the first several. I had that moment where you think to yourself, I don't even understand how this is possible. I don't even get how you can even do this. And
That's the
then
thing.
when you
Catch that goddamn lightning.
when you beat it, when you get to the end and you have defeated that boss, it was one of the moments where I literally stood up and yelled to no one. No one was
Mm-hmm.
around. I was in my room by
Mm-hmm.
myself screaming because I had beaten this goddamn asshole who was just kicking my ass over and over and over, and I finally got to beat that and have
Yeah.
that kind of just adrenaline rush.
The owl was one where, like, again, I tried legitimately. I feel 3 or 4 hours of just try. I'm not a good From Software player. I'm rather mid. So, but like that's why I have such an appreciation. When I finally beat him, I was like, oh my, like there was like this sweet relief.
Yeah.
I did this. Old man. That it was unlike anything, man. Again, these games are special, and when we get into like the difficulty conversation, I feel like we lose the point of the conversation, or just of Sekiro or From Software games entirely. We always often sound elitist or whatnot,
Yeah, the
or
whole
we're
get good. Sorry, you're bad at games. Haha. Like, no.
yeah, like those conversations are again boring and needless.
Yes.
Because to me, it goes back to the Martha is dead thing. Whatever the developers want to put in their game or not put in their game, let them have it. Like when I see if From Software Miyazaki ever wants to get off his ivory throne and say, you know what, I'm adding a bell, just like how you can make the game harder, makes the game easier. Totally down. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
let's
I
do
don't
it.
care.
Let's get wild.
Uh, and but at the same exact time, they don't want to do it. So I'm not going to force their hand at something. I'm not going to tell Picasso what to paint.
I totally understand that the games are not for everyone. It's one of those genres where I get that people don't necessarily have the patience or don't want to like get past that learning curve. And again, I'm not someone who is opposed to, like you said, a way for people to enjoy it easier. Like if you could put on a ring that was this ring, if you wear this ring, you take half damage, things like that. Or again, this isn't about accessibility. That's an entirely separate
Yeah.
conversation. There's a lot of valid criticism regarding accessibility. This is just regarding difficulty. And
Yeah.
again, the thrill for me doesn't come from the fact that I'm a better gamer than anyone else. That's not why I love From Software games.
Okay.
And it's been frustrating that for a long time, especially with Dark Souls, difficulty has dominated every other aspect of what makes these games great.
And it's like, can we talk about the level design? Could we
Yeah,
talk about the combat? Could we talk about the lore? That's also fantastic. It's like, nope, we're always talking about this thing.
it's
And
hard though.
these two extremes constantly get kicked up. I'm just happy that this month it was about Sifu and not Elden Ring.
It will be. Give it
Yeah, I
it's only a
know.
matter of time.
But you're right. It's like I carry Luke lore in every single game that we play because he's garbage and he's a garbage individual, but his mother's a sweetheart and we're getting married hopefully in July. That's right, Luke. You heard it here first. Um, that's if I don't decide to break old Desert Rose's heart. Uh, that being said, like I carry him in all these games. It's not the fact that I'm better at him in all these games. It's the fact that I'm I I love these games, right?
Yeah.
And I enjoy playing. I use that word very loosely. Playing with my friends. That's the reason why I love Sea of Thieves. It's the reason why I love Halo. It's not because I'm good at those games, because I genuinely enjoy them. There are games that I'm not great at. Again, From Software games, I'm not great, very mediocre, but I love them and I love what they try to do because, though I believe everybody should have a chance to play the game. I believe that in my heart of hearts, not every game needs to be for everyone, and to me, From Software is so. This is our vision, and this is what we stand by, and this is what we're trying to make, and they're so dedicated to that vision that they have that makes them unlike anyone else. Because you see a lot of games, they have to kind of, it's just game development as a whole, but they have to, you know, give up some things or go lightly on a certain thing here or there. And From Software doesn't have to do that because their pedigree is just like our games are challenging yet fair. And this is what we've set out to do, and we've set out to do it, and it seems like with little sacrifice. And that's why we love them.
Yeah,
That's why I love them.
yeah, and again, I'm not a big fan of the rabid Dark Souls community that basically made the entire franchise a meme because of the
Yeah,
difficulty. That in a lot of ways that completely ruined the appeal of that franchise because like you
absolutely.
said, you didn't want to play it because people were telling you, "Oh, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard." And
Get good.
it's challenging, yes, absolutely. But I'm excited for Elden Ring because hopefully this is like a jumping in point for people who've heard the buzz of From Software. It's not Dark Souls. I mean, it's pretty much Dark Souls 4. Don't I've played it. Like it's pretty much big Dark Souls, which
Yeah.
God bless, that's all I've ever wanted. But it's been frustrating. And again, yeah, we talked about Martha is dead and how we didn't want that team to have to cut content that they thought was important to it. So it's hard for me to say that From Software should have to do anything if they don't necessarily want to. I'm not opposed to it, like
Yeah,
but
not
I'm
either.
also don't think we necessarily have to force them to add an easy mode if they don't want to. One thing, and this is just my perspective that I love about
It's-
certain games is I actually don't like when there's a difficulty option because this is like a psychological thing in myself. I always think that I'm maybe not playing the game the way it was meant to be played. Like if I put it on
Yeah.
hard, maybe it's more frustrating, or if I put it on easy, maybe there's not enough challenge, and I have this moral dilemma every time I boot up a game as to how do I want to experience this. And so
Mm,
it's kind of refreshing for me when I just boot up a game and hit play, and there's no option.
yeah. I did that with Fallen Order. I accidentally played that game on hard. the whole way through, and I was like, wow, this normal is actually pretty challenging. All right, all right, I like what they're doing here. And I was like, my brother's like, no, you're playing it on like Jedi Master, dude. You gotta.
Just like, what? Oh,
I'm like, oh. I mean, I still beat it.
so
But
I'm
like,
just, yeah, no big deal. Beat it. I'm kind of a big
yeah. I
gamer,
mean,
but
whatever. I platinumed it. It's like whatever.
whatever.
Twice, but who cares? Like, who's counting me? Yeah, it's
I'm
good
glad.
talk.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we could have that conversation, hash it out once and for all. Moral of the story is, they're both really good games, and
Yeah.
you can absolutely have a favorite game, and you don't have to justify it to anyone.
Yeah. And also, if I could end on this, you have in every community a part that is toxic. Every community has its toxic bunch, right? You have it on the Xbox side, you have it on the PlayStation side, you have it in, you know, Disney, you have it in Star Wars, you have it in Marvel, you have it in DC, you have it everywhere. Every fandom has its troublemakers that are really, really loud. And to me, I harken back to like Star Wars is a great example where I personally love Star Wars is a thing that I like. Watching Boba Fett with my brother has been awesome because we're watching it together. We're turning into kids when we're watching it, right? It's magical. And to me, how I've always viewed Star Wars is if you love the prequels, you're a Star Wars fan. If you love the OG, you're a Star Wars fan. If you love what Disney's offered you, you're a Star Wars fan. If you watched it a week ago, you're a Star Wars fan. If you watched it 40 years ago, you're a Star Wars fan. It doesn't matter how you've consumed Star Wars. It's the fact that you love it should matter. That's all that should matter about it. That's how I always view everything because there is no better way. I saw a tweet from Brian Altano going like, it is a different feeling watching a Star Wars for the first time with my daughter who's watching a Star Wars for the first time. Nothing better. So just be better to everyone. Be the good example for your community. If you're a From Software fan, to me, they are one of the best communities out there because they're always trying to problem solve and make something better for someone and get through it for someone. And everybody has their tips and tricks, but then you have that vocal minority of going, well, if you cheese this boss, you didn't really beat it. It's like, no.
Stop.
Listen, the demon of hatred fell off that cliff. I don't care how he fell off it, but he did.
He's dead. All right. I did my
dead.
damn job.
Exactly. No matter what, you are a fan. Be a good chaperone. Don't be the gatekeeper to it at all. Enjoy the medium.
Beautifully said. Yeah, because I have a lot of people on Twitter and, on this show that come in and say, well, somebody said this negative thing. We need to address this negative thing. Not always, really.
Yeah.
Mostly we don't, actually. I think it's better for all of our mental well-being if we don't address every single negative, spiteful comment that's online.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about Sony Pony 69420, their tweet and why it irked you.
Did you see this take? It was so bad. Yes, it is a horrible take.
Just mute them and move on.
Yeah. Please don't amplify. Please stop quote tweeting the worst possible tweets you can see. Please. Please.
Put out some positivity. Put out some thoughtfulness. Put out the love of gaming. Again, separate ourselves from the boxes for a minute and take a look at the people that are making the experiences happen. It's the reason why every time I beat a game that I love, I make sure I at them. I make sure I tweet at them. I make sure I write at them. It's something that my good buddy Bobby, the Nintendo guru who passed away from COVID. Actually, the little sign, that little amiibo up there. That's him.
Nice.
Well, that was his, and he taught me something really great. He's like, he loved Zoink games and he loved SteamWorld Dig so much that he literally wrote them a letter and mailed it to them. And they had a correspondence with each other ever since. And he remembers when he did a SteamWorld 2 or SteamWorld 2 review that they gave him a code for. They literally wrote him back going, we all as a team watched your review and we were just cheering and happy of how much you enjoyed it. That's what we got to get back to. I don't care if you get enjoyment out of your Xbox. I don't care if you get enjoyment out of a PC or a Nintendo Switch or whatever. I'm enjoying the fact that you are enjoying games because they are literally the best medium ever. That's what's important at the end of the day. We gotta gain sight of that and appreciate the ecosystems that we're in and being the best chaperone for them. Because if we're just being d-bags to each other, creating Twitter spaces of why one space is worse than the
God.
other,
Whew.
that's not the gaming community I want to be in.
No. I think, there's a lot of stuff we can celebrate, and obviously we can have the hard conversations when we need to, and we can criticize companies and teams when we need to, but we don't need to spend a ton of time amplifying the people who just want to fight. That's what some of it is. Some of it, they just want to be mad. They want you to feel bad about what you like, and just love what you love, and that's it. Doesn't really matter.
You never know who is watching. Never know who's watching, who's listening, who's reading, who's consuming. That's what I always think about whenever I'm putting out a piece of content. It's not to help, pull me back. It's to help level me out. Do I want to be that D-bag that's yelling at a developer? Never. No, not me. No. Am I the guy that throws sauce one way? Absolutely not. I like my stuff plain and dry as the Lord intended. And I know my parents are watching and I want them to be proud of me. I really, at the end of the day, want to express my love and appreciation for this medium that has offered me so much. That's what this is all about, man.
Beautifully said, my man.
I'm sorry, I get so emotional.
Video games are a big deal to a lot of people, and I get why. I get why fandoms are passionate and why people get upset when things aren't portrayed or done the way that they want or they remember.
Yeah, it's a reason why I love you guys. You guys are a great example of creators that do it right, man. Because you're Windows Central. You gave me again a OneDrive dock. You guys are in this ecosystem, but you guys aren't this like anything Microsoft does. We defend. No, you guys are critical. I love a lot of what Jess has put out there when he's getting critical of the brand because that's what true fans do. They offer feedback. They don't toss toxic or venom. They're giving thoughtful, concise feedback. That's why I love you guys. That's why I love the Xbox Era crew, Season Gaming. All y'all do it correctly. It's about, again, covering it fairly, but celebrating why we're here in the first place.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it because it is something that's important. Is you can criticize when you need to, but you got to remember that there's, at the end of the day, a person is going to interact with this. A person is going to see this. And for me, it's always about how would I tell this to someone? If I was sitting down in a room with this person, what would this conversation look like? How would I speak to them? Would I be extreme? Would I have hyperbole? Would I have rhetoric directed at them? No, that's not what I would do. And so you can criticize something without being extreme. But you should never be afraid to criticize something.
Absolutely.
All right. We got to get to some super chats. We got to get caught up here, and then we're going to wrap this beast up. First and foremost, JD Gamer coming in saying, prediction. I expect Microsoft to complete their Xbox One dream soon. I see them buying or partnering with a major movie studio soon to counter Sony Pictures. I expect them to do this sooner than later. You see Gears of War movie. We got the Halo TV show, Sea of Thieves, the animated series.
That's really Microsoft's decision. I would say never. Apple's in it, and Apple's doing pretty darn good at it. If you're wanting to make this metaverse, that I wouldn't put it past them. It's just Microsoft's thought of, do we want to be a production company?
Mm-hmm.
That's their question.
And they already shuttered that. They did start that. People forget that in the Xbox One generation, they started a production company and then said, all right, let's shut it down.
But I mean, do they want to go, okay, you know what? It's hard to build a studio from the ground up. Let's just buy it. Right. Yeah. We got a lot of walking around money. Universal Warner is still in their merger phase, but they're small. Rumor has it they're going to be picked up eventually. Is it Big Daddy Microsoft that foots that bill? Who knows? But again, that's still a worry for me. That is a company that is in everything, has a lot of power, and there needs to be checks to that power. Again, like as much as I love Ted Lasso, there is an obscene amount of power that I've given Apple that
Yes.
I'm conscious of at the very like. Again, I'm also the one of these companies are not your friend. They do not care if you live or die. The only thing they care about is the money that they get from you. Very much a part of that life. Jim Ryan
Yeah.
is not my friend. He does not know who I am.
Yes. 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 Very true. Good words to live by. Good words to
Yeah.
live by. Crazy Lou Gaming says the message was from Mr. Badbit saying Horizon Zero Dawn in 2019 was at 10 million. When it got put to PC, it has reached 20 million units. That's incredible. That is incredible.
Awesome.
A new IP hitting
Love to see
20 million. Oh, you love to see it. JD Gamer, side note, regulators worldwide are looking to humble big tech. Our industry has always been tied to tech. How much do you see the coming regulatory storm affecting our industry or changing it? That is an excellent point. There are going to be people who, like Joe have talked about, are looking at the consolidation and saying, why have we allowed it to get to this point? Are we going to allow this to go further? So I think that is an excellent conversation to have. And I think there will be more passionate people who are radically opposed to this consolidation saying, I don't know if we should allow this. Not only should we maybe not allow this, but we should reconsider our Disneys. We should reconsider our Comcast and say that shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. And make no mistake, the reason why Xbox is playing so nice with everybody is they know that, and this is strange in this country nowadays, both sides want to regulate it. Both sides say that there's too much power here. So yeah, how is it going to affect it? Who knows? Honestly, I think the next 5 to 10 years is going to be very telling.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And again, this messaging from Microsoft shows that they are likely concerned about this deal going through one way or another. Likely concerned of how people are going to interpret this and how, if it does go through, how closely our future deal is going to be kind of looked at. Because you can't just keep buying everyone and anyone and expect no pushback at a certain point. Harji Chani says, should we want the gaming industry to stay static? PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Shouldn't we want other players to come in? Disruption can be a good thing. I inherently don't disagree. I think key players can come in and shake things up. And if you are a legacy player, you're probably trying to keep new players from coming in to shake things up.
Yeah.
I don't think Amazon is a good disruptor in that space, but I'm not opposed to disruption.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to disruption or people coming in here and trying to change things. Yeah, I am, again, just concerned of who's coming in to do the disrupting. Again, we're coming down to like 5 companies. 5. Is that really choice? I don't think so.
Again, like you said, you can go to an apartment and you can have 2 options for internet. You have a choice, but do you have a choice? If somebody has stepped in and said this person literally cannot be here, is that choice? Yeah. Or we're gonna make.
And also, I gotta say this for those competitors who want to come in. Let's just say an Amazon. The price is $80 billion. Microsoft's put the foot down, going, "You want this space? Look at our price tag." And PlayStation effectively goes, "You want this space? Look at our legacy." They have a lot to compete against. So it's not like it's not like Amazon comes in here going, "Hey, what's up? Time to rev up those engines or whatever." It's going to be a lot harder for them.
Yeah, and the kind of boring reality is a lot of these companies have made a system where you can't even compete. The average person, average company has no means to step into this place in a meaningful way because you're going to need hundreds and billions of dollars and years and years and years. And your return on that investment likely isn't going to be generated by the time you have a platform of interest. So again, it's a big conversation, and it's something that I think regulators will be having amongst themselves.
Yeah.
Harji Chani says PS already has all Japanese publishers putting their games on PlayStation. Xbox needs to bring players to their ecosystem. Xbox needs Square or Sega to lock down games.
Sega. You can have Sega. It's fine.
See, that's Sega would be cool as a play to the Japanese market specifically.
Yeah.
I think they already have a good relationship. I don't think it's necessary. Um, but I do agree that PlayStation or Xbox has a gap in the Japanese market, and they've been working to fix it. And I'm hoping we
Yeah.
see some bigger kind of changes in that department.
Yeah. I mean, Persona would be a huge gap, but then even then, it's just like, well, are you gonna make Persona an Xbox exclusive in Japan?
There you
I don't
go.
know.
All right.
Difference between having and wanting, so yeah.
Uh,
Interesting.
Very interesting. Harji Chani with another one says Sony is in Japan and that government doesn't care as much about this as the US and Europe. Microsoft will get more scrutiny because it is in the US. I know this deal is being reviewed by basically the world. Like this Activision Blizzard King deal is the biggest deal ever and will be reviewed by more bodies than just the US for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know it's EU and in the US at this very point in time.
Okay, let me just make sure that I think we got one more. Harji Chani
Okay.
killing it. We're already there with large companies that do gaming and movies and TV. Amazon, Apple, and Sony do it already. Microsoft needs to compete. Microsoft buy Warner Brothers.
I mean, again, everything is possible. But you just made a really big acquisition that everybody is looking at with scrutiny. Do you want to make a second one? I would also say that, and again, maybe I'm an outsider looking in, but Apple has, at least from the out, again, I'm talking out of ignorance, but they didn't need to buy a WB to make their production company, and their production company still is small, or their production's still small, but you've seen them make some really, really good content out of Apple TV. So again, it's a want if you're an Xbox fan, for sure. I get it. NetherRealm's a big get, but do you maybe in a year or two? I'll say that when this deal's over and done with, and the T's have been crossed.
Yeah, I imagine they're keeping their head low when it comes to acquisitions right now. I don't imagine in the midst of all of this they're trying to add any other regulatory probing into the company.
Yeah.
And if you're buying a Sega or you're buying a Square or you're buying a WB, which has all these other elements incorporated, yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Phil's already talking about how has pretty much no idea what he's doing as is with this Activision Blizzard thing. He's like, yeah, nobody's done this, so I don't know. I have no idea.
We're paving the way.
Yeah. We're setting a precedent. Whether it's scary or not it's up to you.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for Super Chats. That is it for this show. This has been a marathon gauntlet. Joe, appreciate you joining me. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad to have you on because this has been an exciting week, and you were someone that I respect as someone who likes PlayStation.
Likewise.
I know you have a solid head on your shoulders, and we can have some good conversations without a lot of the typical noise you see when from extremists on either side.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that mute button is beautiful. But honestly, this was a blast being here. And again, I appreciate you and the whole Windows Central team. You all do excellent coverage, and this is an absolute honor. I had an absolute blast chilling with you and ranting away today. You can find me over at the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players. We each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation. We do talk about and get into a little bit of speculation town when it comes to what is PlayStation's move and if it is in Japan. So you could go ahead, check that out, and our more deeper thoughts on the whole Call of Duty exclusivity thing. Yeah, it's a show that I love to do each and every week. And the best thing that we hear is when Xbox folks go, you know what, you got a great show, which means we're doing something right. Because no matter where you're gaming, if you're enjoying the show, that means a whole big deal to us. And yeah, we're doing a little giveaway at the moment. You could go win or have a chance to win Horizon Forbidden West if you give us a 5-star review over on iTunes and you share it at me, at Mr. Babbitt. Or if you're of the From Software persuasion, you could rate us 5 stars over on Spotify at me, at Mr. Babbitt, or at PS Trophy Room on Twitter. Get yourself a chance to win one of those games. And yeah, again, thank you so much, Miles, for having me. This has been a blast.
It's been absolutely, dude. Really appreciate you. And again, I like having you on because it's just about the love of the game, regardless of where you're playing. We can talk about games. We can keep it fun. We can have our differences in Dark Souls versus Bloodborne. But at the end of the day, we all know From Software's the GOAT. All right, everyone. This is gonna be it for this week's episode. I will catch you all next Saturday. Have an excellent weekend.